Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I'm Andrew Scaff. He's Mike Horman. We're in the final lead up to the Super Bowl this week. Mike, what did you find most? What are you looking forward to most this week? Is it media day stuff for the players and hearing what crazy things people might say, or just hearing about the health of the players going into the final game, or weird stories between mayors of cities? Is that what you're hoping to find something here, or has there been something that's already sparked your interest on that front?
Yeah, well, the Super Bowl lead up week is usually full of more kind of weirdness and wackiness than normal game weeks because I think even though maybe it's the most important game, I think the teams are, at least the players seem less intense in their preparation in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
At least you can see them that way. Again, maybe behind the scenes, I'm sure they're very intense, but they kind of hang out and talk to the media, talk to each other. I don't know, you saw that picture of Andy Reid tugging on Jason Kelsey's beard during
I
part of
didn't
it.
see that.
So yeah, there's more kind of frivolity and kind of tomfoolery in those media days. So that's always kind of fun. So in general, I'm less nervous about this game than I was about the AFC Championship game. Are you feeling the same way?
Yeah, definitely more relaxed. The Chiefs have been there. They Most of their players have at least some experience at this point now, right? So, um, yeah, I think it's mostly just about getting healthy ish, at least anyway, going into the final game,
Yeah,
and trying to avoid the bulletin board material probably too, right? As we touched
yeah,
a little bit
it's
last time.
it seems like there's been quite a like there hasn't been much bulletin board material. I guess it seems like maybe the most um kind of in inflammatory remarks were not made by either a Chiefs or an Eagles player. It was Brandon Ayuk from the 49ers. Did you hear that? Like where he said the Eagles kind of got lucky and he thought he said bet all your money on the Chiefs because the Chiefs were going to exploit the weaknesses that the 49ers would have exploited had they had a functioning quarterback during
Mm,
much of their game. So that seems like
right.
that when the I think the bulletin board material doesn't even come from one of the two teams or somebody related to one of the two teams. I think you're doing pretty well.
Yeah. I think the most inflammatory comments that I'd seen from a player was a Chiefs player made a comment about how the best cheesesteaks were not from Philly.
Yeah, it was Juju, I think,
Yeah.
said that. What did they follow up and say where they were?
I tried to find out. I didn't see anything about it. So I'm not
Maybe the
sure what it
question
was.
would be, does he mean like where would they be? Like, are they in like a suburb or New Jersey or something,
Could
or
be.
are they? He's from Pittsburgh. Maybe they're in Pittsburgh actually, rather or I guess he wasn't from Pittsburgh. He's from California, but he played in Pittsburgh. So I don't know. Yeah, that's a yeah. I didn't. I heard that remark, but I didn't see the context of any of it, so I don't really know.
I wondered if people were going to run with that one, and I haven't heard much about it though. The article popped up, but it didn't sound like people were getting too freaked out about it.
Um,
Funny though,
yeah, it's like
if
yeah,
that's
when
the
if that
most inflammatory thing that we're hearing, is that's not very inflammatory.
yeah, that's not very inflammatory at all. I guess you could yeah, from what I see, yeah, he doesn't yeah, I don't see any follow up. So that seems like a really uh kind of missed opportunity by the media there. They really dropped the ball on following up. Is that an
Yeah,
indictment of our current media landscape where
maybe they just
reporters
agree.
don't ask the tough questions or really dig in to find the real answer?
Could be, or they just agree with it, and they're like,
Oh,
"Yep,
maybe
that's
so.
true." Guess we don't need to
Yeah,
follow up on that one because it's just accurate.
yeah. Like we kind of mentioned, I think this big story for the Chiefs is the health of the players, especially Mahomes, but also the receivers. So like from what it seems like, Mahomes thinks he'll be fine. There haven't been a lot of whispers or anything like that, and for the most part, the injuries Like Snead is out of the concussion protocol. So he was hurt in
Mhm.
against the Bengals very early in the game,
Mhm.
and Willie Gay, I guess, was injured too, but he seems to be fine. And both Juju Smith-Schuster and Kadarius Toney, who were both injured, were back at practice today. So uh, Tony was like an ankle and I guess hamstring again, and Tony,
Mhm.
I mean, Smith-Schuster was his knee,
Yeah.
um, and I guess they're both back. But Nicole Hardman has been ruled out and put back on the IR, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been reactivated. What do you think of that news? Do you think Edwards-Helaire's activation is going to help potentially help the Chiefs, or would you think maybe it might hurt the Chiefs if you think the hot hand has been Pacheco and McKinnon? Do you think
Mhm.
uh, Clyde might take away from them?
Will he factor back in? Will he play? Will he actually be dressed for the game, or will he be a late scratch? It just means he's on the roster as a player that can dress, right? Isn't that all that really means? It doesn't mean he's necessarily playing, right? So
Yeah,
I think he could be a factor if he's healthy enough to play. And I mean, I don't think Reed would put him on the active roster if he didn't think he was able to play,
yeah,
unless it was an injured Mahomes is still better than a backup.
yeah,
No,
yeah. It seems,
but in this case, they don't need Edwards-Helaire to like be the number one running back. Maybe they just need him as a backstop just in case there's an injury and he could perform. But so
yeah,
yeah, I don't expect him to be a factor, but he could play into something though, I think.
yeah. I guess he could be a replacement for Ronald Jones as the third back. Maybe I would say Edwards-Helaire is probably a little better in pass protection than Jones simply because he knows the system better, and
Hmm.
also he seems to be pretty good in those kind of short yardage goal line situations where he'll catch some of those weird passes from
Hmm.
Mahomes, the improvisational ones. I think he's a maybe better. I don't know if he's better than McKinnon at that, but he's probably better at that than Pacheco is simply because they played together longer and probably know each other a little better. And I think Edwards-Helaire is also just a better receiver out of the backfield, probably, than Pacheco, who's probably a better runner at this case, at this point in his career. But
Hmm.
yeah, I guess the problem might be sticking Clyde back into like if back into the starting lineup or something like that. Maybe you could see a problem. But that doesn't seem like it's probably going to happen. But I'm not sure.
It doesn't seem like something Reed does in general,
Mhm.
unless they've been back up, not just to full speed at practice, but full speed in a game too, which is frequently very different than practice. So I would be surprised if he is on the actual active roster the day of the game. But if he is, I'd expect him to get into the game at least a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think so too. Even if it's just pass protection and kind of outlet out of the backfield. Although it seems like sometimes when it's an open field kind of pass, uh, maybe because he's so short or he doesn't connect terribly well with Mahomes. It seems like if there are
Hmm.
missed kind of little outlet passes or screen passes, things like that, it seems like Edwards-Helaire is just like it's just over his head a little bit, or if it's just he doesn't
Yeah,
quite have the long arms maybe of a
maybe.
McKinnon. I don't, or maybe it just kind of um, maybe we're just remembering things uh, out of proportion to how they really happen.
Oh. Well, yeah. Well, I think we'll talk more about the Super Bowl in a little bit later in the show with our new bets for the game. We'll have our betting spectacular as we have done in the past.
It truly will be
Um,
spectacular.
but before we get to that, there's been some other news in the NFL, I guess, right? Is that
Yeah, right before we aired our last week episode, the day before, the day after we filmed, the day before we aired it,
a few
one
hours after we were off, I think. All right.
yeah, yeah, early in the morning from Miami Beach or maybe some beach on Gulf of Mexico. I don't remember what beach. Tom Brady was on, but he announced his retirement for the second time from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and from the NFL in total. And I guess it's going to be for real this time. I don't remember what he said last time, whether it was for real last time or not, but it became clear pretty quickly that he was trying to either A, angle to get back on the Miami Dolphins, get back on the Buccaneers, or B, go to the Miami Dolphins,
Mm.
which ended up creating a little bit of a scandal, right? Because I think Sean Payton was trying to go there, and the Dolphins ended up losing a draft pick because of said scandal. But this time, apparently, it's for real. Do you think it's for real that he's gone?
Well, maybe the thing that's at least to keep in the back of your mind anyway was that he supposedly has a deal lined up with Fox to be a broadcaster and calling NFL games. But
Yeah,
he's already said he's not going to start that job until the 2024 season, so he does have a year off right now that we're aware of. So because if he said he was going to start in 2023, it might be hard for him to get out of the contract to come back to play football if he wanted to. This leaves the door open for him to play one more season without having to like change any kind of contractual obligation he has with his next career that he already has lined up, which is a great thing to already have. Know what you're doing after retiring from football. But I don't know. He seemed serious. He seemed resigned. It wasn't like he was forced to say anything about it. But there are some interesting situations around the league too, where like somebody like San Francisco might need a quarterback for 1 year, and if he wants to play one more year, and that might be a good fitting spot
yeah.
for him. So I wouldn't be surprised either way if he plays or doesn't play. But yeah, he'll probably play again. I don't know. I
Okay,
don't know why not.
I have a few options for you, and
Okay.
some of these are actual bets I've betting lines I've seen out there. Some of them are just, well, a couple of them are just my own. Um, so you can on some sites anyway, on Bet Online, for example, you can bet whether this retirement is permanent or only temporary, whether he will play next year or not.
Yeah.
Right now, if you think he'll stay retired, he has odds of -2,000. So you can bet $2,000 to win $100
Wow.
if he will stay retired.
That's
But
pretty serious.
if you get +900, however, so you would be able to bet $100 and get $900 if he should unretire. Do you like either of those wagers?
I mean, if I was gonna make a bet, I would take. I wouldn't bet $2,000 to win $100 for a bet that would take a whole year to pay off.
You wouldn't it would be like investing your money for a 5%
Yeah.
payout, and you might also lose all of that money.
Right.
That's
It's like it's a
over a year.
a high yield like money market account that is not FDIC insured.
Especially the one that's especially risky. Yes.
So no, if I was going to bet on one of those, I would not bet on the -2,000 odds. So
Okay.
is that what you would go to, or is that
I
would you put a lot of
if I had to bet, if somebody was making me bet, I I would bet I would just rather lose the $100 than like, you know, dread losing two thousand
money? Right.
dollars for a whole year and really and only make $100 off of it.
Yeah.
I would just say, well, that's why those are the breaks. It's like having a flat tire and having to buy a tire. But maybe you get lucky and you get something out of it. So I'd rather lose the 100 than kind of sit around and um, kind of just stew over a potential lost 2 grand for
Yeah.
something, even that's something I think is probably safe, but it's not that safe. So yeah, you can also bet uh, for different. So if you think he's going to not stay retired, so you get $900 if he just doesn't stay retired. So he can go play for any of the 32 teams, I guess. at
Yeah.
plus 900. Although I guess I don't know. Does it mean he could, like, if he joined the CFL or something like that? I don't know if that would count or not. I
I
assume
don't
they mean.
know that
I
you. I don't think
assume
you
they
can
mean.
do that, but
I assume. Yeah, I don't think so either. I assume they mean NFL. But if you want to make a bet, you can place odds of plus 3,300 for him to be the starting quarterback of the New York Jets next year, plus 2,800 for the Raiders, or plus 2,200 for the 49ers. So the 49ers are the shortest odds,
yeah.
at least the ones that I've seen. Is
If
that,
I, if yeah, if I was betting as to which team he would go to, I think San Francisco makes the most sense. Unless they think that Purdy's going to be back and healthy for preseason, which I can't imagine would be the case of the torn
it would be
UCL.
very close because I think it takes at least
Yeah.
6 months
Mm.
for UCL, and so that it's February already. And he hasn't had surgery yet, so it's going to be mid-August, probably at the earliest. And so I guess he would maybe make it back during training camp and maybe at the start of the season. But it seems like
Yeah.
that would be a place where Lance might win the job before
Mm.
Purdy even has a chance to compete for it. So
Yeah.
would you keep it open for Purdy and just let Lance start the season, and then when Purdy seems to be healthy, just put.
I think the best way to handle it from the 49ers perspective would be to say, the job is Purdy's, but Lance will keep the seat warm until Purdy is back. And then if that motivates Trey Lance to like play out of his mind, then it creates the controversy where,
Yeah,
if he does perform really well, then he can actually keep the job. Like, yeah,
yeah,
he'd have to give up like no doubt that this is my job and nobody else is taking it. If that's how he shows up, but I think, yeah, from the psychology of it, that's how you'd want to try to motivate
I think so too.
Lance to perform the best. But
And ideally,
that
that's a
isn't
good
doing
problem to have.
anything,
Yeah, it's a good problem to have if you have two quarterbacks that are good,
that
rather
are
like
competent. Yeah.
that could compete against each other. Rather, I guess you could say, well, Lance isn't very good, and then Purdy comes back and he's not very good either, and that's
Right.
the worst case scenario probably. But because Garoppolo is
But
probably not going to
if they
be.
manage to like keep that defense intact, their team's going to be okay.
Hmm.
They just need somebody competent there. But if they get within a few weeks of the preseason and they realize that Lance isn't ready to come back and Purdy's still months away and Tom Brady's still out there,
Mm-hmm. I guess you might think
I
there's a
would
lot of
assume there's going to be
quarterbacks.
some phone calls, right?
Yeah, you could see. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you could say there's a lot of quarterbacks that still might be out there in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill, possibly Aaron Rodgers. Did you see what Aaron Rodgers' future plans were over the next of the offseason?
I saw that that message that you sent to me anyway, but
So
what was the context for that? I didn't. Was that
and
just what he said?
yeah, so Rodgers is going on a 4-day, 4-night darkness retreat where he will be, I guess, plunged in pitch black darkness for
Oh.
96 hours. And
I thought that meant he was just going to listen to the British rock band The Darkness
no,
for
the
for
heavy metal
48
parody kind of band. Yes.
hours.
Well,
Yes.
that be fun as well. But I
He's
think
gonna he's gonna he's gonna tour with The Darkness for 4 days. So maybe that's it.
yeah, it says he is going to go on a 4-day, 4-night darkness retreat soon after the Super Bowl on Sunday. So I guess he wants to watch the Super Bowl. Uh,
Yeah.
and he says he has a pretty cool little opportunity to do some self-reflection and kind of decide on his future. And last summer he had taken part in the ayahuasca ceremonies where he does drugs and uh, kind of hallucinates. This darkness retreat however, does not use ayahuasca. It's just sitting in isolation. And there may be, so I guess it's maybe a little bit like a kind of idea of like a sweat lodge type of
Yeah.
thing or something. And so he says the retreat will be alone in the confines of a small house in an undisclosed location. Meals are delivered, but otherwise there's no other contact with the outside world. But he could leave if he felt like it.
Right.
And Rogers, did you know that he won the amateur portion of the Pebble Beach Pro Am this past weekend? Instead of going to the Pro Bowl, he went to
Right.
the Pro Am. So he might have been able to
What
win some of
who
those golf
was it?
competitions.
Who was it that was injured and said they couldn't play and then played in a golf tournament that was like named to the Pro Bowl roster? Wasn't
This year?
somebody? Yeah, was it? I just remember seeing that somebody that happened at least anyway. It was one of the quarterbacks that said that was injured that they had to replace. Was it Huntley ended up in the roster?
Oh, Josh Allen, I believe, was.
Was Josh Allen? Yeah, it's Josh Allen. Yeah, but he played in some golf tournament like that weekend instead. Was
Yeah,
it?
Josh Allen was in the Pebble Beach Pro Am.
Yeah, that's it. I hearing that story. It's like that was pretty funny.
So
It's like
yeah, so the
he didn't want to
celebrities.
even go watch it. He like was like, nah, I'm gonna go play golf instead. But
Yeah,
like in
so
a
there are a lot of
public tournament.
there were a lot of football players in the Pebble Beach Pro Am, active and former. Josh Allen, um, Harris Barton, who was a former 49er. I think he played. He was a lineman. I think a tackle, offensive tackle. Um, Larry Fitzgerald, uh, Ron Rivera, the coach of the Washington Commanders, Aaron Rodgers, Alex Smith, and Steve Young. So those were the football players, and Alex Smith won the amateur uh, program. Although there weren't that many. How many? Four,
Aaron
seven.
Rodgers won, right?
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers. So there are only about 35 players. Um, you know who finished second?
I have no clue.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, was it another football
The
player or was
the
it?
PGA. Uh, whoops, the link was broken. So now I'm looking elsewhere. Oh, here it is. That's all. It's only the professionals.
You don't want the pro part, you just want the am
I
part.
just want the AM. Yeah, I don't care about the pro. Tom Hoge, Hoge, won. Jordan Spieth got second. I've heard of him, but I haven't. Uh,
Those are both pros though, right?
yeah, those are all pros. I think they. Yeah, I don't. 2023 results. Here we go. It's broken again. The PGA page. It's PGA. I can't even. Uh,
Do you watch golf at all?
Occasionally, I watch the like Masters or the British Open or something like that, but not that closely. And
I like never watch.
yeah, I watch him. I liked when I watched when Tiger Woods played. It was more exciting when he was good. But and yeah, it's the results are hard to find right now. Hmm. Well, I will keep looking while we talk about other things. But do you? So what are the? So do you think that Tom Brady will go on a 4-day darkness retreat with? Is he more likely to go on a 4-day darkness retreat with Aaron Rodgers, or is he more likely to visit Thailand for an extended period of time, like uh, disgraced and fired? Maybe not disgraced, but fired coach Cliff Kingsbury of the Arizona Cardinals, who went.
He bought a
Who just does
one way ticket to
one way
Thailand
ticket
as
to
soon as
Thailand.
like the day the week after he was
Yeah,
like
I guess he is.
unceremoniously like
I guess he is still there. So what's more likely
for
for
Brady.
Tom? Yeah.
Between those two things,
Hmm.
uh, neither, I guess. But the 4-day retreat, I suppose. I don't, I don't expect him to just like take off and disappear for a year. But he's not leaving like in disgrace though either, I guess, right? So
Yeah.
I suppose it's that one. I suppose.
Okay, so all I found was Silverman and Rogers played together. So Ben Silverman, I guess, was the PGA pro, and so I guess the pro and the AM played together,
I
uh,
thought that's what it
and
was. Yeah, that's
and 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 they won by one shot over Peter Malnati and Dan Colleran. I'll give you $1 if you can tell me which one is the pro and which one is the supposed celebrity. Peter Malnati or Dan Colleran?
Malnati's the golfer, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Who is Dan Colleran, do you think?
No, I had no idea. That name doesn't sound familiar.
He is an associate athletic director at UMass. Wow. So he is just an AM, I guess. He is not
Yeah,
a celebrity.
not
Yeah.
famous, I guess, at all, huh?
Yeah. Charlie Hoffman and tennis pro Marty Fish finished in third place.
The tennis player?
Yeah.
Is that fit Marty Fish?
Yeah. Tennis player. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Man, that's pretty weird. Yeah, they don't have like a straight up leaderboard anywhere that I can see either.
No, it's maddening. It seems like it's really hard to find. Yeah, I haven't been able to find it. Justin Rose, I guess. No, Justin Rose won. I don't know who won. It's hard to even tell. I think Justin Rose won. It wasn't Jordan Spieth. That may have been last year.
Maybe it isn't just how they do it anyway. I don't know. Yeah, because I thought they were partnered together, so I don't quite understand how this.
We never quite do either. I never know what's.
It doesn't seem to actually make sense the way they
I
talk about this stuff
I
anyway.
think Patrick Mahomes may have and Kelsey may have played in it last year
Yeah,
or something similar. Yeah, I don't.
yeah, because I kept hearing like a headline about Aaron Rodgers having won it, but it's like it doesn't look like he won anything. Well, unless he just won from the AM side, I guess, right? Is
Yeah,
that all?
well, he teamed up with Ben Silverman in the pro am portion of the Pebble Beach Pro. So I guess the pro am is only in the. It's like its own little thing, I guess.
It's a separate event.
Yeah. Peter Malnati, Don Colleran, Josh Allen, and Keith Mitchell were 4 strokes behind.
Okay.
So I don't know. It's bizarre. Golf is strange to me. One thing that's strange to me in golf, and maybe you can tell me why. Um, in normal English, somebody who is not a professional with or has am at the beginning. How would you pronounce that word?
Did you what?
How would you pronounce the word that means non-professional that starts with the am, as in Pebble Beach Pro Am? How would you
Oh,
pronounce
amateur.
amateur? Yeah, but
Yeah.
how do they pronounce amateur in golf?
Oh, I have
They
no
say
idea.
they say amateur. They don't say
Amateur.
sure. Amateur. Amateur.
Amateur. Huh.
He's an amateur.
I know in Australia, if you watch Australian rules football ever, they refer to rookie instead of rookies, the term they use is debutante.
Ooh, debutantes. Yeah,
that
that's
was
very
that was
fancy.
wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. We only think of it as women or young women in a cotillion context as a debutante.
Right.
It then comes with an e rather than without. Yeah, I guess it's
Yeah.
makes sense. Not you would I guess in tennis you might say novice or something like that. But yeah, it's like amateur
Amateur.
would be the real French way amateur, but like yeah they say amateur or amateur in
Oh,
golf
that's
for
really
some reason,
weird.
but they say but everybody else says amateur, and I don't know what the golf where
Is
the
it just
golf
is it
accent
just
comes
because it's
from.
a British announcer or is it a
Americans say it that way.
It's an American citizen. I don't know. Maybe they learned it from a British announcer or something that talked about it before.
Maybe.
I don't know. That's interesting.
But yeah, there's I was looking at the thing. So yeah, there's questions about why do they mispronounce amateur in golf? Uh, why do they say amateur in golf? It's a weird. I can't see it. I can't. There's a Golf News Net. Um, it says uh, yeah, why do we golf has its own language? Why uh, why do we say amateur in uh, golf? And nobody really knows, it seems like. Because
Huh.
like you would say it's amateur hour or it's amateur night, but you
Right.
wouldn't say yeah. But if you listen, so next time you watch golf or hear about it, like Jim Nantz will say amateur
Yeah.
when he talks about golf, but I don't think he would say it in. It's only in a golf context, and it's a weird little uh, thing.
Weird.
Yeah, the word amateur, of course, comes from the French or the Latin to love something. So it's simply a lover of golf.
Right.
So somebody who plays as a for the love of the game rather than for a professional.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Nice.
it's a little uh, amateur. But yeah. But anyway, the amateur competition was won by Aaron Rodgers, who's not going on this retreat. Um, but while Aaron Rodgers was on retreat and Josh Allen was, who supposedly had the elbow injury, was playing golf, we did have a Pro Bowl of sorts. Do we want to talk about the Pro Bowl and our betting competition related to the Pro Bowl?
I think we should talk about our betting competition. I didn't really watch much of the Pro
That's all I
Bowl.
know. I didn't really
Either.
think we were going to talk to analyze the Pro Bowl too much, but
Yeah.
well, maybe one question: do you like the new format?
I like the concept of the format, but I guess I didn't like the format enough to actually watch it though. So I don't know. How
Yeah,
did that fall for you? Did you watch
I
um
I
any part of it, any of it? Did you watch
I
more of it this year than you watched last year?
I did. I didn't watch any of it last year, so
Same here.
I watched more this year. So technically, they got. I watched the end of the final flag football game in which um, the AFC had a head start in the score, but the NFC ended up winning thanks to Kirk Cousins's brilliance, I
Yes.
guess. But he was the winning quarterback in game three.
Did either
So
of us have Kirk Cousins' brilliance as a phrase to come up in this episode? In the betting line for this week.
no,
No.
I think that would have been a hefty payday for any of our viewers that were playing sort of
No.
bingo phrase bingo with us. But we, but you have so we ended up having so the NFC ended up winning
Mhm.
overall. You would think that would be good for me since I bet on the NFC more than the AFC, but the AFC won more of the individual competitions and thus had a head
Yeah.
start before the flag football. So it was close, but you ended up squeaking uh, away with the victory.
You,
Was it?
you actually started. You won the first game and the last game, and then most of the middle was a big mess, basically. So
Yeah.
you got 3 points for the overall winner of the NFC. But you started out with getting 2 points for the dodgeball game. Where the NFC offense defeated the AFC defense in the final for
So I had NFC offense. I had NFC
yeah,
offense,
right.
and and you had the AFC
I
defense.
had
So
the
you got
AFC
one.
defense. So
So you got
you had
one.
2 points to 1 point to me in the first
Yeah.
event, at least.
I think I had both offenses.
You did.
So you had both defenses. Um, so 2-1 in dodgeball. I didn't see any of the dodgeball, but I'm sure.
That was on Thursday too, and I'd forgotten about it. And then
Yeah,
I looked on Saturday to see if it was going to be on television, and then oh, that was 3 days ago, 2 days ago.
yeah.
And
I
I was like,
remember it was
oh,
going on Thursday.
I'll look at the results and I'll start recording them. and then I like couldn't find the results anywhere because they like weren't being reported on yet. I don't know. It was very strange.
I was in the yeah. It's like the PGA. It's like the Pebble Beach Pro Am finding those results.
Yeah,
They were.
apparently.
I was in the car, so I unfortunately also didn't listen to the radio broadcast of the Pro Bowl games if there was a radio broadcast. I actually listened to our previous episode of the Warning Track Power Hour while I was
Nice.
driving, as I do sometimes, to listen to see how we messed up or how I
Yeah.
messed up. But so I took a 2-1 lead, and then we
Mhm.
had the next event
With the lightning round
was the
at the
Lightning
the AFC one,
AFC one. So that was 1 point for you.
which I had.
So 2-2. Then we had the
Um,
longest drive, and this was an
right.
interesting one because we had originally had was it going to be a quarterback or non-quarterback, and I picked quarterback, but and it turned out everybody was a non-quarterback, so we took
Were no
that
quarterbacks in the
away.
event. Yeah.
And then I had the NFC then as winning, but the AFC
Yeah.
won
Safety Jordan Poyer won the event.
of the Buffalo Bills. So he was not while his teammate was golfing, he was also golfing and winning
Yes.
the longest drive. So Jordan Poyer.
Longest drive, 320 yards. That's a pretty
Yeah,
decent drive.
that's not bad. That's better. That's what the pros do sometimes. Longer even.
It's a lot longer than what I drive. So
Yeah. It's like it reminds me of Cosmo Kramer. When he was in on Seinfeld when he was suspected of um, it was I think it was the caddy when was the episode called the caddy when it was when it was the, I think it was called the caddy. It was when Sue Ellen Mishke was walking around without her top on, and Jerry and Kramer looked, and Jerry crashed his car, and they were going to Sue Ellen Mishke, the O. Henry candy bar heiress and enemy of Elaine Bennis for flouting
distracting
society's
them. Yes.
conventions and distracting them. And the
Yeah.
caddy gave the bad advice to Kramer and Jackie Childs to tell Sue Ellen to put the bra on in court, a little bit like the O.J. Simpson glove. When he tried to put the glove on, it didn't fit. If the glove does not fit, you must acquit. And the
Yes.
bra did not fit because she was trying to put it on over her shirt. And of course, if she's trying to put it on, she would of course also probably not try to make it fit either, so she could
Right.
be scot free. But Jackie Childs was upset. Yeah, that was the and and Kramer was asked by Jackie Childs, what was your golf score the last round you played? And Kramer goes 3 under par, and he goes and Jackie says, "Ooh, that's what the pros shoot." And Kramer says, "If they're lucky." So
Nice.
I thought of that Jackie Childs.
I think you're going to go to the golfing into the ocean and
It's the most famous of the golfing scenes.
Yeah.
Hole in one in the Wales blowhole.
Right, exactly.
The Titleist.
It was a good thing that George just happened to be there, right? Because
it is. He was a marine biologist, and yeah, a lot of happenstance and coincidences on those shows. In big cities like New York, it's the same. These people always run into each other, wherever they are, and it's one of those things. You see that on Curb Your Enthusiasm too. Might even be a little bit sillier on Curb because they go more different places, and Larry runs into his friends at this restaurant, and like another couple that he had also talked to
in
earlier
a
in the
different
episode
city
is
too,
also
right?
at that same restaurant. So like there's like 3 different groups of people that we've met earlier in the episode are at the same fancy restaurant. And I guess maybe it's this idea that Los Angeles is really a small town if you're ultra wealthy and famous.
Right. That's right.
But speaking of ultra wealthy and famous, we also would have the quarterback precision passing competition. And this one was a little bit interesting because the people that we thought would do well
Yes.
did not do so well.
Well, and actually, the players that did the best were the fifth and sixth picks from our shuffling of our draft, though, too. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, the way it worked was that we had six quarterbacks: uh, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, uh, and who was the third NFC quarterback?
Third NFC was
Yeah,
Geno Smith.
Geno Smith, Cousins, Goff, Smith, and we had Tyler Huntley and
Derek Carr
Derek
and Trevor
Carr and
Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence as the three AFC quarterbacks. And the way we'd ended up doing was our first place finisher. We each picked three quarterbacks. I picked Cousins, Goff, and then Huntley. I had the second, third, and sixth picks. You had the
Yes.
first, fourth, and fifth. And first pick, Trevor Lawrence. How did he end up?
He finished fourth.
Fourth. And
Second pick, Kirk Cousins, finished DFL.
Yeah, he finished sixth. So the brilliance of Kirk Cousins may have shown on the flag football field, but it did not come through in the precision passing. And it was actually Tyler Huntley, the sixth overall pick, who finished second, who got me most of my points. He got 5 points. I think Goff got fifth, or
Goff was fifth.
So I had only 6 points. Yeah,
and you had only 5 points total. So you got 4 points for Huntley. So we decided that first place is going to be 5 points.
Oh yeah, that's right. So 4 points for Huntley.
Going to be 0. Yeah,
4 points for Huntley and 1 point for.
This is the scoring system that you
devised.
Had you only decided to score the top 3 quarterbacks, I believe you would have won the competition.
Oh,
points available, but that was how you devised the scoring. So
I did. We would have.
It may have been your own. It led to your own demise, apparently.
Hoisted on my own petard.
Yes. So the quarterback competition, netted. So I ended up with 10 points from that. Yeah, Carr finished first. Geno Smith finished third in that one. So
Lawrence finished fourth. So you got a 5, 3, 2.
Yeah.
And I got a 4-1. And the overall winner was Tyler Huntley. And you picked in that one. Did we pick AFC, NFC in that one? Or we just pick the individuals?
For the precision passing?
Yeah.
We just right. Yeah. So it was just where our players were drafted anyway. It was all for that one. Yeah.
Then we had best catch where we did pick an AFC, NFC, and we picked also wide receiver, non-wide receiver, but they're all wide receivers. So that was good.
And I think there were only like 2 wide or 4 wide receivers. Maybe it wasn't. There weren't a lot of players involved in that best catch. It was 4 players. So it was a Pat Surtain Jr. with the second for the Broncos.
He was a cornerback.
He's a corner, yeah. Yeah, that's weird.
So who won?
Now I don't remember who won. Hold on, I've got it open here. So best catch. The Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Wide receiver
beat Stephon Diggs.
So if you want to add 1 point to your score because you had wide receiver.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, that was weird. There were only 4 players in it.
Yeah.
Which isn't very many. So it looked like they had like the 2 players. Diggs and St. Brown were selected as finalists in a fan vote over Justin Jefferson and Pat Surtain. And so I'm not sure. That's really weird. It doesn't really say what actually happened in that, but
yeah, who cares? I wonder how St. Brown won, I guess.
Yeah.
And the NFC. So he was an NFC player, and I had the NFC, so I got 1 point.
Correct.
For that.
Gridiron Gauntlet. The NFC one, which you had.
1 point for that. And then we had Tic-Tac-Toe. The AFC, I believe, won that, right?
The AFC one, which I had.
Probably thanks to Tommy Townsend's brilliant tic-tac-toe playing ability.
But he wouldn't have been there, right?
Oh yeah, he was. It wasn't him. It was the Raiders punter.
Yeah, and I didn't even see who they ended up being. Yeah. You were correct that it was
AJ Cole.
Justin Tucker from the
Ooh, I
Ravens.
predicted him.
So you
So
did
that's
you
probably
did
why they
you
won.
did
Justin Tucker.
you predicted correctly as to who the kicker would be for the AFC because it wasn't listed in the
Yeah.
official
AJ
lineup.
Cole was the Raiders punter who was the alternate for Tommy
Yeah,
Brown. So their prowess was noted. And then we had after kick tack toe, which we'll remember forever, and I'll go down the annals of Pro Bowl history.
I'm not even sure what happened in that. If it was like interesting or what. If it was, yeah. AFC won the event after being the first team to get 3 in a row.
Okay, it seems like a little like Connect Four type of thing, probably.
I don't know. That's all the
Yeah.
write up says in the Wikipedia entry for the Pro Bowl.
We can move on. We had Move the
Yeah.
Chains was the
Move the
next one.
chains. That'll move the chains.
That'll
AFC
move.
move the chains.
You got 1 point
Yeah, you
for
1 point.
AFC. I
Yeah,
got 1 point for that one, or you got 1 point?
you got one for that one.
Oh, we switched it up on the Move the Chains.
Yes.
AFC we got. So I got
I
that
got
one.
to pick I switched it. Yeah, and that got you a point.
Got me a point. Thank
So,
you. And then we moved on to the actual uh, flag
like football part.
football games, and there were 3 flag football games. In the first two, if one conference won both, I was going to get 1 point. But if there was a split, you were going to get 1 point, and the conferences split the first 2 flag football games. So you got 1 point, and then going into the last into the last flag football game, I believe the AFC was 6 points ahead, if I'm correct.
That
But
sounds right. Yeah.
but the NFC ended up pulling it out. So I got 3 points for that NFC, but it wasn't enough to overcome, especially my loss in the precision passing performances. And what was our final score?
Was 15 points for me, 13 points for you.
Ooh, close game. Tough fought, but I don't think we need to talk about the Pro Bowl games anymore. Do we want to talk about the more important
Until the
game?
next Pro Bowl, and then maybe not even then. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so too. Maybe they'll have a more kind of, I guess, a more professional type of betting system available for the Pro Bowl games.
Well, I think they moved to a more skills based competitions for the NHL.
Mhm.
It seems like that has become more popular there, at least anyway. So they're I think the NFL is trying to kind of follow in their footsteps for how to make it different, at least anyway, than what they've done in the past. Because nobody really wants to play those games, seems like. So finding something that's more entertaining is better than what they were doing before, trying to play an actual football game where nobody actually wanted to play.
Yeah, you could bet on the NHL skills competitions.
Yeah,
There were betting odds and things like that, and they have fastest skater. They happened on this past Friday. Hardest shot, accuracy shooting. So, like for example, Alex Ovechkin was the odds-on favorite for hardest shot at plus 298 if he won.
yeah.
So,
Did he win? I saw they had like for the skills competition, they had like the shot accuracy. They had like actual like plates sort of like placed in the goal, and so like
mhm,
you could actually like hit and break the plate
yeah,
that was there. It's like that was actually looked really cool. Anyway, I probably should have watched more of that then.
Elias Peterson of the Canucks, or Elias Pettersson of the Canucks, had 103.2 shot. Ovechkin finished fourth with 95.1, so not his best, but hardest shot. So
Wow.
maybe we could talk about the NHL skills competition, or maybe the NBA All Star game, 3 point shooting and slam dunk contest winners. Maybe
Yes.
we can do when
When
those
we
come up. That
when we
hasn't
when
happened.
we when we've achieved full degenerate gambler status, and we're betting on skills competitions.
Yeah, the All Star game is on February 19th, so
Oh, well, that's
Sunday. So
right around the
it's
corner.
right around the corner. So we can maybe we can
But maybe
have
preview it
some
next week.
wagers on that East versus. I don't know if it's East versus West or if it's going to be some other kind of, like team, Kobe and
I think they
LeBron or whatever.
shuffle it now, don't they? Isn't no, they just the players that are selected go to a pool and then they do like a playground like pick 'em.
Yeah,
I think now. I think this is the current format for the game, the All Star game itself, like, anyway. But
yeah. This as the sixth consecutive season says the All-Star game uses a draft. Each conference's top vote getter will serve as captain and draft a roster from the remaining players. So we can see how that goes. And they've had last year was Team LeBron versus Team Giannis. It was Team LeBron, Team Durant. The previous 2 years, Team Giannis and LeBron. The other ones, and Team LeBron, Team Steph Curry. For that, so it seems like LeBron is probably going to get votes for one of them this year, and rightfully so. He's had a really good season. He's going to break the NBA scoring record. It seems like in the next day or next game or two
mhm.
against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and over Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So maybe you might say do you think LeBron could be considered the greatest NBA player of all time?
I do. Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I don't think people from that watch Jordan play will ever agree to it, but that's how it goes.
I think in terms of longevity and you
Yeah.
know, and I think even LeBron made more final. He's made more finals than Jordan with weaker teams, kind of dragging them to the final. I think he's like
Yeah.
4-6 in the finals or something like that, which and Jordan is 6-0. But I don't think I'm not a person who thinks that being undefeated in the finals is as big a feat as I would be more impressive if Jordan were 6-1 in the finals rather than 6-0 because it means he would have gotten a 7 and he would have won. And rather than losing earlier in the playoffs, you shouldn't be rewarded for losing earlier than the finals.
Yeah.
More than I think losing in the
Right.
finals is
Yeah.
better than losing earlier. So even a
Yeah.
finals loss is better than a
Or if he would
title.
have won a title with Charlotte, right, at the end.
Yeah.
If he'd done that, but that's not what
And
happened.
you can say LeBron's like almost 40 now, and he's still scoring 30 points a game, which is more than what Jordan was doing at the same
Yeah.
age. So yeah, I'm Team LeBron surprisingly
I'm
in
shocked. I really think you would. Yeah.
in that. No,
Yeah.
actually, maybe I would go back to like Wilt Chamberlain or something like that, or somebody who really dominated his era with
Yeah.
100. He had 50 rebound games and 100 point. Uh,
Right.
uh,
Did you see the most recent move, at least anyway, that Kyrie Irving was traded from the Nets
that's to the Mavericks.
to the
Yeah.
Mavs? Did that actually save LeBron from having to try to make up for Kyrie's shortcomings off the court?
I guess you want to have Luka Doncic have a teammate, but he's probably going to ruin another team. I would guess Kyrie
Yeah.
Irving with his idiocy and just general
And I
tomfoolery.
think he's not under contract for next year necessarily. I think there's an option
Mm.
that can be picked up, but it's for like a 50 million a year, I think, somewhere in that area. But then you still have to have him on your team, which seems like, why would you want to do that?
Going back to Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah.
So Wilt Chamberlain, over his career, averaged 30.1 points a game, pretty good. But he also averaged 22.9 rebounds per game.
Holy cow.
And his best season, you could maybe say, was 1961-62 when he played for the Philadelphia Warriors. He averaged 50.4 points per game and 25.7 rebounds a game
Wow.
that one year.
Holy
And
cow.
he was, from 1959 until 1966, so an 8 or 7 years span. He never averaged fewer than 30 points a game and never fewer than 22.3 rebounds per game. So even as he
That's
got
insane.
older, he didn't score quite as much, but he still kept up the high rebounds. So he was, I think of him as being especially dominant in his era. He didn't win all the championships that Bill Russell did, but
Yeah,
I think,
that's pre-merger there, isn't it?
yeah, it's before the ABA merger.
Yeah.
Yeah. He played his last season for the Los Angeles Lakers in 1972, 73. So yeah, he was um, yeah,
Wow, that's
also known for
crazy.
his prowess off the court as well. But I'm thinking I'm keeping it on court actions with Wilt Chamberlain. You could also say
Yeah.
Kareem or somebody who maybe is the one of the best of all time too, just for his longevity. Um, I think Jordan dominated his era in a way that his era in the way nobody else did. But
Yeah.
it's also, maybe you could say, it wasn't an era where what the teams that he beat in the finals were pretty mediocre. Like the best team was like the Lakers '91 team when like Magic and James Worthy were kind of on their last legs,
Yeah.
and then he beat like the Gary Payton and the Blazers, or Sean Kemp and the Sonics, and the uh, the Utah Jazz, which had Karl Malone and John Stockton were very good, and maybe Jeff Hornacek was a decent player, but like after that, it really dropped off pretty
Yeah.
quickly. They didn't have like the super teams that they do today. I don't think.
Mhm.
I don't think Jordan usually had Scottie Pippen, who was probably a top 10 player in the league, on his
Yeah.
team, and Dennis Rodman or somebody who got all the rebounds, but it
For
was
the second three-peat,
yeah.
Rodman
I
and
don't
yeah.
yeah. Kareem, uh, his stats are dwarfed actually by Wilt Chamberlain's. Kareem averaged, but he played a lot and he didn't score very many points in his later career. He played for 20 something seasons, but he averaged 24.6 points and 11.2 rebounds over his NBA career. So
Which is a lot for that era, at
yeah.
least. But yeah, but the style of basketball changed so dramatically from like the 50s and 60s into
Mm-hmm.
the 80s, and then again it changed a lot in the 90s and 2000s, and now it's like pretty different even now than it was 20 years ago. So
Yeah, maybe we'll pay
there's
more
very little
attention.
contact, and there's rarely fights and stuff like that. I mean, it's very much less physical, but the players are so much more athletic. Like the average player seems
Yeah,
to be athletic.
yeah. There's tall as Wilt Chamberlain, but they're shooting threes and carrying the ball up the court and
Right.
stuff like that. They're not just big guys on the post anymore.
7 foot center, like point center, is basically like, how's this? Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll pay more attention to basketball after the football season wraps up. But do we want to talk about Super Bowl previews and betting, and what we're looking forward to going into Super Bowl Sunday? It's Chiefs versus the Eagles. Any general comments on the game as you see it?
Yeah, I still really don't know what to expect. I usually know more or less what's going to happen in these games, but I'm hoping what Brandon Ayuk said is what's going to happen more than what I was thinking before I heard about his comments anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Partly it's like, I think the Eagles are good, but I don't know how good they are because there haven't, like we mentioned last time, they haven't been in a real game for a very long time, and they played
Mm,
you know a a softer NFC schedule than the Chiefs
mm,
played in the AFC. And that doesn't mean that they're a worse team, but I think the gauge of how good they are is more uncertain to me. And so I'm kind of just going in thinking that I'm kind of basing this on the Chiefs 49ers Super Bowl. It seems very similar to that, where we had Mahomes and a Chiefs team that was very good, but maybe position by position, other than the quarterback, you could say the 49ers were better overall. Like their defense was better. They had a lot of skill position players that maybe on the whole were better than the Chiefs. So, but the Chiefs ended up winning that game. So I'm kind of going by that. I think you could also say maybe that even against the Buccaneers as well, but that didn't do so well. But that was when Mahomes was hurt and the line was really hurt, and
yeah,
at least the offensive line
yeah,
seems fairly healthy. and Mahomes maybe seems better than he was last time. So I think
And then again, just in general, the Chiefs defense is so much more improved compared to what the Chiefs defense has been in the last several years too. So that's
yeah, they've
a
really
different factor.
come on as the season has gone on. They haven't allowed very many points, even compared to the Eagles, who have allowed a few points per game, but they've allowed higher scores in some of the games. I think the Eagles gave up 40 points um, to the Cowboys and 35 to the Lions and things like that. And the
Mhm.
Chiefs, I think they gave up 31 to the Buccaneers, and that was the highest. And they scored 41 themselves, so that was
Yeah,
and so they won that game. And they won both the highest scoring games. The defense, um, you know, gave up. The Chiefs won those games. So I
and
think,
that's well, with losing the turnover battle then too over the course of the season, which is odd, right? To have it,
yeah, the Chiefs, I
uh,
think, were -3 over the season. They actually got better the last few games. They were
yeah,
down more. The Eagles, I think, were +8. So yeah, maybe they were more turnover dependent in their wins. They also kind of really tanked it towards the end. I think the Dallas game, they were like -4 in that game
mm.
and things like that. So and maybe even the Giants game, they were lost the turnover battle as well. So um, yeah, I think maybe you could say the Chiefs are not as turnover dependent as the Eagles.
or as the Chiefs had been in the past
Mhm.
several years too, where they give up tons of yards, but somehow manage to get an interception or force a fumble to stop a drive, and rather than actually forcing a punt instead, right? Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah, so I mean, do you think the game's going to go by what style of game we see in like the right away? Is it going to be the Eagles like dragging the game out just on the ground, playing very slowly, and then trying to play like a very staunch defense, or are the Chiefs just going to run all over them, or what do you expect to see the pace of the game to be?
I'm not sure of the pace of the game. I think it's going to depend on which team takes the lead first.
Mm.
And if the Chiefs come out to a lead early, I think that will force the Eagles to be more of a passing team. And I think ideally, even though the Chiefs' pass defense is not really seen as good as their run defense, I think that's what you want. You want to force Jalen Hurts and his possibly hurt shoulder to throw the ball as much as
As
possible.
much as you can, yeah, yeah,
And taking the running game away from the Eagles, I think is would be a big key for the Chiefs' victory. Or, so you could also, I guess, you could say, well, if the Chiefs just let the Eagles run and they can't pass, that could be another way of doing it. But it seems like if the Chiefs are ahead, I think the Chiefs would want to stay ahead, and they would, the Chiefs might end up running the ball a lot in that case, maybe,
yeah.
if they could, or maybe they wouldn't. It's hard to say. I think if you want to make the Eagles play from behind, because they haven't been able to really do that this year, or they haven't needed to do that this year. And
They haven't been in that situation hardly at
yeah,
all.
yeah, and the Chiefs have. So in the playoffs, even
Hmm.
maybe not this year so much, but they've been in those situations before. Mahomes has been in those situations before in the Super Bowl, in big games where they're down, 2 scores plus, and they've won these games. And so, yeah, I think that's. I think if the yeah, I don't know how it's going to go, but if the Chiefs go off to a big head start, I feel good about their chances because I'm not sure how well the Eagles play from behind.
Hmm. Will we see a scenario where a gentlemanly Andy Reid shouldn't have let off the gas, though? Are you more worried about that than the Chiefs getting behind early or something?
I'm not in the Super Bowl. I'm not worried in the
Yeah,
playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen with Reid, and I don't think
yeah.
in the Super Bowl, especially because I think he really wants to beat Philadelphia and make sure he's ahead. And I don't think really anybody is embarrassed or by a Super Bowl loss. I think you just want to show everybody what you have, and if you're ahead you want to give the fans a show. And so I don't think this is one of the ones where you really let your foot off the gas as much, unless maybe you see the Eagles not, like if the Eagles pull like a New York Giants and decide to punt it in the fourth quarter down 3 touchdowns
Yeah,
instead of trying to win, or like the
yeah,
49ers kind of gave up too. They didn't try to do anything creative with the offense, or
yeah,
maybe that would be a case, but I don't see the Eagles doing that, and I don't
yeah.
see the Chiefs doing that if they got behind either. So um, yeah. Do you want to talk about our
Well,
bets
I was
or?
going to ask too. What was your favorite of this of like what should have been like the media stories for the Super Bowl itself? Is it the Kelsey brothers facing each other? The both head coaches having ties to the other programs like from earlier in their careers, or the Super Bowl featuring two black quarterbacks, which any of those things you think was more interesting than others, or was it? Because I think all that is really pretty fascinating for for
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Super Bowl
I
storyline.
would say all three of those are fun or important stories. I think
Yeah,
I think the black quarterback story is important, more important maybe than some people are letting on, simply because that black players were looked down upon so long in the league and not thought to be able to be you know uh, field generals and leaders and things like that. Did not having the kind of intellectual or leadership capacity and things like that to do so, and that seems to have really gone by the wayside
thankfully.
in the last even when Doug Williams and Warren Moon were around. Um, there's also, I guess you could say, something maybe with Hurts as a black quarterback. He would be the first kind of um, run centric quarterback to ever win the Super Bowl. Most of the, because Mahomes runs a little bit, but he's a passer.
Yeah,
John Elway ran some, but he was a passer. Steve Young, same kind of thing. But all of the, you know, like the quarterback, like Lamar Jackson hasn't made the Super Bowl.
right.
Colin Kaepernick didn't win in the Super Bowl. There's maybe some
Yeah, there've been
others
yes
who have
a lot of
made it.
quarterbacks that aren't necessarily big name quarterbacks that have are like the game manager types
Mhm.
that don't throw for a lot of yards, but they also wouldn't run either though. So
Yeah, yeah, you do have your Trent Dilfer types or your
yeah,
uh, Nick Foles types that relied on a good defense or maybe a hot hand in the playoffs to win. But yeah, there hasn't been like a run heavy quarterback that's
run or at least a run
won.
first option anyway.
Yeah, one because you may say Josh Allen even, like but you know I think Allen isn't as he's known as much for his huge arm as he is for his running. I think Hurts at this point in his career at least is seen as a runner first, and then a pocket passer second, for
Hmm.
better or for worse. Or, but I think that's interesting uh, as well. But yeah, I like the Kelsey angle, the brothers. First, you get both of those. Maybe we could say are Hall of Fame possible brothers.
Potentially,
Kelsey has a great
sure.
center who's been great for the Eagles, won a Super Bowl with them, and Travis being one of the top, maybe the best tight end of all time, and Andy Reid Bowl. Yeah, it's been like it's a lot of fun matchups, I think, and like Nick
Yeah,
Sirianni stuff is kind of funny too, even though. And I think I read somewhere that Sirianni was kind of upset. He had a chip on his shoulder that Reid didn't keep him, but like
we
who?
thought he was maybe passed over for promotion, I guess, at one time here, and
Yeah, well, he was on the Romeo Cornell Todd Haley staff, and then when
yeah,
Cornell got fired and Pioli got fired, I guess technically it was Reid who fired the rest of the staff,
yeah,
or didn't ask for them to come back rather than, I don't know if they retained anybody from that older
yeah. But you
staff. Like,
usually, typically don't though. If a team
yeah,
especially only won two games that season,
yeah, and I think Reid even
probably
brought
not going to keep any of
his
those
own
guys.
train. Rick Holder, the trainer, even came from Philadelphia. I think so. It's like they got rid of everybody, so I wasn't like
Yeah, he
I
was
don't think
singled out
yeah
and fired because of something he did or didn't do.
yeah
I don't think so. Yeah, but people do tend to like keep those things in the back of their mind. I know who was the football coach at K-State for decades.
Oh, Bill
Uh,
Snyder.
Bill Snyder, yeah, he apparently was passed over for a job at Iowa State before he got the K-State job,
Hmm.
and apparently he like used that as like a grudge, and would try to like score an extra touchdown or two against Iowa State when they would play too because of that. Even though like
He had
he
been I know he
clearly
had
had
been an
a
assistant
very
coach
very good career.
at the University of Iowa, so maybe he wanted to stay in the state
Yeah,
and had to go all the way to Kansas. But
yeah. I know that was like it was seemed like it was a thing. Like it was apparently he felt like slightly he should have gotten the job. I think in at Iowa State and didn't. But
yeah, I don't think Andy Reid has lost to the Eagles. I think they've played the Eagles twice or three times, and they've won each of the times. And Patrick Mahomes, they played last year against the Eagles, and the Chiefs won. Patrick Mahomes threw 5 touchdowns. Three of them, however, were to Tyreek Hill. So we don't have, well, the Chiefs don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, and much of the teams have changed their kind of personnel and also their philosophies in the last year.
mhm.
But the Chiefs also have not lost against an NFC opponent since the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They're 10-0 against the
All
NFC
right,
the last two seasons.
wow.
Since so that's a big uh, streak.
Yeah, I heard the one unfortunate story that I saw this week was that the Madden um, video game predicted the Eagles to win, and apparently they've been right something like 70% of the time when they sim the game.
Oh, really?
How much stock do you put in that, Mike?
I don't put a lot in that, but yeah, I guess you never really know. I'm looking actually at the stats. I'm not sure that Patrick Mahomes, other than the um, Super Bowl against the Buccaneers, has ever lost to an NFC team in his
Ooh,
years of starting. No, he lost. No, he lost to Seattle his first year. I remember that. He lost to Russell Wilson, and to also to the Rams that year. So in 2019, he lost a couple games to the NFC.
it's funny they
But
have to go back to a previous decade to
in
find that
28
though.
in 2018, 2019, his teams lost. He lost the team lost to the Packers, but he did not play in that loss
Yeah,
to the Packers. So he was undefeated in the NFC in 2019. 2020, he was he only lost one game in which he played, and that was to the Raiders. So he did not lose against the NFC in 2020. So through the last four regular seasons, Mahomes has not lost to the NFC. So
okay,
he's only lost one game
one time,
this one
2 years
time
ago.
2 years ago in the Super Bowl
Yeah,
to Buccaneers. So I think that's I don't know. I don't know how much that plays into the matchup here because they well the Super Bowl he lost, so maybe Super Bowls are different for him. But usually against the NFC, the Chiefs do very very better than they do against their AFC competition, and I don't quite know why, but they've been they're like probably 17-1 in Mahomes' last 18 starts against the NFC.
not bad.
So do we want to take that information into
I think
our
so.
betting?
I think so. So what?
So
Yeah, what's the main game line for the Super Bowl itself?
it seems like it's settled at 1.5. Chiefs plus 1.5, Eagles minus 1.5. It's been that way since last week, so it seems like that's where it's
Yeah,
going to stay. I think 77% of the money is on the Eagles right
I
now,
just saw that today. Yeah.
but the idea that they're not moving the line any suggests that maybe the smart money is on the
Uh-huh.
Chiefs. I hope, but smart money doesn't always win either. The smart money wins like 54% of the time, so
Right.
it's not much better than a coin flip. And um, we want to explain to our many, many, many viewers and listeners how our betting is going to work for the Super Bowl.
I think so. I think we should.
Okay, so we are going to split our bets into kind of three types, but we're betting a total of 1,000 uh, imaginary dollars
Each.
on each on the Super Bowl, and we're really ramping it up from our previous $300 a week or
Yes.
$400 a week usuals for 1,000 for the Super Bowl, and we are going to make 7 of our kind of traditional $100 bets with and we'll talk about each of those in a short order, and then we have $300 remaining, and we're going to use 250 of those $300 on 5 $50 bets of kind of middling odds. So, winning up to, more than like a coin flip over under. So anywhere between, over, probably I'd say 2 to 1, from 2 to 1 to about 10 to 1 odds. We will bet with $50 each, 5 of those, and then we'll have $50 left to spend on 10 kind of lottery tickets at 10 to 1 odds or greater, spending $5 each on those bets, and we're going to see how much we end up winning after the 1,000. And I imagine if we're lucky, we will break even. I
Yes.
I am not feeling terribly confident about any of these, other than maybe a few of the traditional bets, which we've the spread and the over under, we've been over the last 3 months, we've been better than average.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that doesn't matter, because but this is a Chiefs game, and we're both betting not with our unbiased brains, but with our Chiefs centric brains, I believe.
Yeah.
And that could come back to haunt us, or I guess it could win. We're either going to win bigger with it, or we're going to lose bigger. I think. Is that your assessment?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. We're I know I would when I've gone through and looked for bets, I was trying to find some that would sort of neutralize a bit of the, if the game turns into a disaster, you won't lose everything, because that's not fun to lose everything and watch the Chiefs not play well at the same time. That's a disaster. But to have some scenarios at least where there's like some, at least to fall back on something that that you got right along the way. That's what I try to do, at least anyway at times, but it's still very Chiefs centric. It's hard not to do that.
Yeah, mine are too. I think it's possible I will get some of the bigger bets right, even if the Chiefs lose. It's possible as well that some of the, I might get a random big bet if the Chiefs lose as well. But I like my chances much more if the Chiefs end up winning this game.
Right.
And I feel pretty good about that. As long as Mahomes is healthy and able to stay healthy during the game. Like
Yeah.
if he's not chased around like he was against Tampa Bay 2 years ago, I think the Chiefs have a very good chance. And it seems like Mahomes hasn't played a great Super Bowl game from start to finish. He's only played 2 kind of iffy sort of games. I guess he played pretty well enough to win against the 49ers, and kind of in a heroic kind of valiant way in defeat. But the stat line didn't end up looking too good because he hit Tyreek Hill in the face mask a couple of times and was forced to scramble for hundreds and hundreds of yards behind the line of scrimmage. And I think that Next Gen Stats said he had to scramble 500 yards that game, or like 497 or something like that if you count with all his direction, which was a record apparently. I don't know how far back they've really gone on those, but I hope if he doesn't have to run for his life, I think the Chiefs have a shot at doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So do we want to run through our bets? And
yes, let's do it.
Okay, so
if I start right up top,
yeah,
with the game itself, Chiefs plus 1.5.
Chiefs plus 1.5.
Eagles minus 1.5. Which way are you going?
And well, as we've intimated and maybe even said outright, I'm going Chiefs plus 1.5. I think the Chiefs are probably going to win. If I was actually maybe betting the game, I might bet Chiefs money line and make a little bit more, but 1.5 isn't too bad. So
yeah. If you think they're going to win, then you would take this in a heartbeat anyway. So
yeah,
which I think we both do.
Yeah, Chiefs plus 1.5, and so we're both doing that. Then the over under this week is 50.5. So I think it's got crept up a little bit from its,
Mhm.
I think it was 49.5 last week, maybe, or 48.5. So it's crept up a little bit. It's a fairly high over under, but not outrageously high. Yeah, where are you on this one, Andrew?
I think I'm gonna take the under in this one. It I could see there are a lot of different ways the game could go, but I just don't see the Eagles scoring a whole lot of points in the game. So if it's a relatively low scoring game, it's gonna be well under this. But even if the Chiefs are able to hold the Eagles down and score points themselves, but keep the Eagles from scoring points, it could still stay under the 50.5,
Yeah, I guess you could say,
along the
well, if
way.
it's a low scoring game, it might be like the AFC Championship was, if it's close, 23-20. That's only 43. Or the NFC Championship, if the Chiefs are dominating, maybe it's 31-7 and it's 38. So that's under as
Mm-hmm.
well. And maybe you think, well, if the Eagles are going to win, maybe they're holding the Chiefs down, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how they win. I
I just don't see it as a shootout scenario. That's not. I don't quite see the Eagles being able to score. If the Chiefs are scoring a lot, I don't see the Eagles scoring, matching them point for point. That's why I don't. That's the scenario I
okay.
don't really see. It could happen, but that's not what I'm
Mhm.
expecting really soon.
Well, I ended up going with the over, partly to distinguish myself from you, to make this a little more interesting, partly as well because I talked myself into maybe the Chiefs will score a lot of points and maybe the Eagles will score enough points. I was thinking of the Super Bowl against the 49ers. The game was 31-20, and that was 51 points. And that wasn't terribly high scoring for either team,
Mm-hmm.
really, the way it turned out. So that would be an over. So I
Mm-hmm.
figure, maybe I could say the Chiefs getting, if the Chiefs get above 30, I like the chances of the over because I think the Eagles will try to play catch up and they'll end up, um, scoring some points as well. And then if the Eagles score, I think if there's a few points back and forth scored early, I think it might end up being a shootout ish type game. But it's in the
I guess
warm
it doesn't
weather.
really have to go that high. It only has to be like in the mid 20s
Yeah,
for both sides to end up at that over. So
it,
that's not crazy, but
yeah. I think the warm weather maybe for both teams and dry weather might help things as
mm,
well. So I'm going with the over 50.5. Um, our next two bets are player over unders, passing over unders for the quarterbacks, and we each bet $100 on the over under for uh, Patrick Mahomes passing yards and Jalen Hurts passing yards. So Mahomes' over under in passing is 292.5 yards. Where did you stand on Mahomes passing yards?
so I think that I'm going to take the over in this one also. Mahomes managed to throw for over 320 yards on one leg in the AFC Championship game. Uh, and he should be more healthy in this game, and hopefully his receivers are also more healthy. It seems like he should be able to be up over that 300-yard mark, which would put it over. Would be my guess. So
Yeah,
that's what
in the
you.
19 games the Chiefs have played this year, Mahomes has been over that 292 and a half 11 times, and he was over 300 all those 11. He had 292 yards exactly one time, so it would have been half under. So one more yard here there would have put 12 and 7. So I think he's a little bit more likely to go over. I guess you could also say, however, the Eagles have the number one pass defense in the National Football League, but a lot of that seems like maybe it comes from the lack of star quarterbacks the Eagles have played this
Mm-hmm.
year. They even when they play, when they played the last time they played against the Cowboys, for example, Dak Prescott threw 357 yards. They only played against Prescott one time. They played against Cooper Rush the first time.
Right.
So the Eagles have allowed big games sometimes. Jared Goff had a big game against them. I think Aaron Rodgers had a big game. So I think a lot of teams can pass a lot with them. And you could even say, well, maybe if the Chiefs are losing, they're going to have to abandon the run and pass it a lot. So That's maybe one of those kind of hedge ones too, where you think,
Mhm.
okay, maybe the Chiefs will have to throw a lot to keep up, um, even or they'll throw a lot to stay ahead. So I like it either way. So I'm going
Yeah.
with the over as well for that one.
And they, sometimes they, use the pass as a run game though, also where, a lot of, dump off passes to receivers or running backs,
But
in the
yeah,
backfield.
that seemed to
Um,
work better against Cincinnati than the running game wasn't really working. So Pacheco had more yards receiving than he did rushing, which was very unusual
mhm.
for him. Yeah, so both like Mahomes over 219.5. What about Hurts? His number is 38.5. You like him to be over or under that?
238.5 is the number, right?
Yeah, 238.5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that because the Chiefs have the capability of scoring a lot of points, that it's going to force the Eagles to have to throw more. He doesn't necessarily have to throw way downfield every time, but just enough to pick up enough yards to get to the 238. That is pretty high, I think, for him. But because of the stage, I think I'm still going to take the over on it, just because of the number of times he's probably going to have to throw the ball compared to what he typically would have to throw. Uh,
Yeah,
so,
I think
so I'm going
that's
to take the over.
logical. I ended up going the opposite way.
Okay.
Um, I went with the under. Hurts in his two playoff games so far has thrown for 275 yards total. And you could say even that one of those passes maybe like was like a 40-yard pass that should have been an incomplete pass to Devontae Smith.
Right.
So you could say maybe in those two games he's thrown for fewer yards than he's the over under here. But you could also say,
Mhm.
well, maybe that's also because Hurts' shoulder was hurt, or maybe he was in the in such a big lead. But for all of those reasons, I kind of like the under because even if like you could think, well, if the Eagles are playing really well, Hurts won't need to throw it a lot. He's going to be running
Yeah.
a lot. And if you could also say, if the Eagles aren't playing well, maybe it's because Hurts's shoulder has not been, it's not 100% yet. He needs surgery in the offseason or something still. And maybe he's going to be under 238.5. So I went with the under. I I thought about over as well, but um, Hertz would have been under 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3. I think 9 times. So I think he's been over that number 10 times and under that number 9 times. So it's basically a coin flip
Mhm.
either way. And it seems like lately maybe he's not as sharp. So that's why I went with the under. But I could see
Yeah.
him. You could say, well, if they're behind, they're going to have to throw it all, and he's going to be over. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it depends on you could see a few different scenarios for each one, and I don't think either one of those over unders is really dependent on the score of the game. It's dependent on a
Yeah.
certain type of the way the game could go. But I think you could
Yeah.
say, well, if Eagles are doing well, it could be because Hurts has a ton of passing yards, but it could also be because Hurts doesn't need it to pass the ball at all either. He's
Yeah. Yeah. I think if the Eagles do well, it will be because they've played a very slow game to control like the possession time. And that's going to be a lot of runs, though. It's not going to be a lot of passing.
mhm.
So if the Eagles are doing well, chances are Hurts is not going to have a lot of passing yards. But it's just, yeah, which of those types of games does the game turn out to be? We may know, like, 7-8 minutes into the game what we're going to expect, but unfortunately we have to make these bets ahead of time, right? And not like in the game, right?
Yeah,
For now. Maybe in the
yeah,
future we'll be doing in-game betting.
yeah. We'll have a Manning cast type of situation where we're
Yeah.
watching the game and listening to the game and making bets as we go on. Um, our next two bets are rushing over unders for players on both on each team. Their number one running back. So we took Pacheco as the number one running back for the Chiefs, even though you could say maybe it's McKinnon, but in terms of rushing yards, it seems like Pacheco is the guy they usually are giving it to now. And
Mhm.
Miles Sanders for the Eagles. You could also argue that maybe it's Jalen Hurts who's the number one running back for the Eagles as well. But we decided to do Pacheco and Sanders. Pacheco, his over under number is 46 and a half yards rushing. What did you think of that one, Andrew?
I'm apparently starting a trend here by taking overs. Chances are there's not going to be enough yards to go around for all of these to go over, but I may just go ahead and take them all over, Mike. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think 46 and a half isn't that many yards. Like, I mean, he could get to that within a couple of pretty decent rushes. But they'd have to be actual handoffs and not short passes that wouldn't count as rushing yards. So this may be a scenario where even initially they may say it was a rush, but it turns out that it was a short pass. Like, we'll have to keep an eye on that when we're watching the game and keeping it try to make sure we know which one
Was it a lateral or a swing
what
pass?
actually happens, right?
Or one of those like little forward goal line types of things that becomes a touchdown
Right.
pass from Mahomes, but it's really a running play. On this season,
Scoring is what we'll go
Pacheco
by.
has gone over 46 and a half 11 times in 19 games if you include the playoffs.
Okay.
In the regular season, starting that week of Jacksonville to the end, he went over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times in the last 9 regular season games. So in the early season, he was hit and miss, but in the regular season, at the end, he was almost always over 46 and a half. In the playoffs, it's been a little different. In Jacksonville, he ran for 95 yards. But against Cincinnati, he only ran for 26. But he got 59 receiving, so like his total yardage. It depends on how we're gonna arrange his total yardage. So
Yeah.
Maybe that's also they ran less because it was always Mahomes mostly out of the shotgun. I think in because he's not wasn't able to like um, back up after the snap. So
Yeah.
maybe the Chiefs running game will be a little better if there's if Mahomes is under center. So I like the over as well for that for 46 and a half.
It's just not that many yards. It doesn't seem like
No,
it. It's
no,
just a
yeah,
couple of good finds anyway for him, and he could get to that pretty quick.
yeah. Like that one run against Jacksonville was 37, 39 yards, something like that. So that's just a couple here and there that he would need if he reeled off a big one. Similarly, that could happen with Miles Sanders. His over under is a little bit higher than Pacheco's. It's 61 and a half. Sanders ran for over 1,200 yards on the season. I think Pacheco was around 800, so it makes sense that Sanders will be a little bit higher, 61 and a half. And the Eagles have a very good running game, and Sanders is a big part of that. So where did you see Sanders? Are you sticking with the over?
I am going to stick with the over. I do think that Hurts is going to have to be somewhat more protective of himself. I think because he's going to want to stay in this game, and every time he's going to rush the ball himself, it is a risk. I think hopefully they will take a more measured game plan and hand the ball off to him a little more often than they keep Hurts from getting too many hits early, at least. Anyway, that's especially if they're trying to protect that shoulder. So I would expect a little more rushing from Miles Sanders.
Yeah, Sanders. That's always a tough one for me, and
Yeah.
because the Eagles they play 3 running backs: Boston Scott, who's played pretty well lately, and also Kenneth Gainwell, who gets a lot of yardage, especially near the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
And also, of course, Hurts runs a lot, and you could say, well, maybe if the Eagles are doing well, it's because Hurts is running well. Or if the Eagles aren't doing well, maybe Hurts has to pass it more. So maybe there's less Sanders. So I decided to go on the under for 61 and a half for Miles Sanders. I don't have a great sense of it. This is also a kind of, he's kind of, I think he's it's sort of a coin flip whether or not he's under 61 and a half. Since he's had some big games where he's been over 100, but his last 6 games, if you include the playoffs, They've been 42 yards, 65 yards, 61 yards, 33 yards, 90 yards, and 42 yards. So a little bit on the underside, I think, there. But anyway, who knows? So I decided follow the trends a little bit and maybe think, well, the other running backs are getting the ball a little bit. Maybe Hertz is going to run maybe more than he had previously. So I'm going to go under there. Also, maybe it's a little bit of a hedge as well. So
just in case. Yeah.
just in case. So 61 under 61 and a half.
They do have enough different weapons that they use at the running back position, and that, you know, if those yards get spread out, then one guy having 60 yards is, you know, a little more surprising, right? So if they are,
I feel like my Hertz under 238 and a half passing and my Sanders under 61 and a half. I think one of those is probably going to happen, but I don't know which one. Uh, I I would be surprised if Hertz throws for more than 238 and Sanders runs for 61 and a half, but I runs for over 61 and a half. I don't know, but it's these are you know, it's a fool's quest really to bet on all these things, which
right.
you know, it's not stopping us, but
Yes.
yeah, it's stopping us in real life. It's not stopping us in this competition.
Yes.
So I have Sanders under, you have Sanders over, and then we have the last of our seven lucky seven $100 bets. We went back to the Chiefs and to Travis Kelce and his yardage on the game, and it's Kelce over under 79 and a half
Receiving yards specifically.
receiving yards. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you like on that one?
So I think I was looking back just at the last game where Kelce had ended up with 78 receiving yards when both he and Mahomes were somewhat hobbled against a defense that was really like overselling, trying to stop Kelce from getting the ball too, seemingly.
Yeah, you could say because the Chiefs' receiving options were so they were daring Mahomes to throw to the wide receivers rather than throw to Kelce. And he still nearly got there, you could say. So maybe
he was just shy of what the over-under number is for this. And if you go off of what Brandon I mentioned, then it seems like the Chiefs are going to be picking apart the defense. So I again like the over for Travis Kelce.
yeah, I think that's a really good number they gave. This season, in the 19 games Kelce has played, he would have gone over that 10 times and under that 9 times. So it's right there. He got 78 last time. He's he had 81 another time. So like he's been really close.
But yeah, how many receiving yards did he have in the 4 touchdown game?
Oh yeah, in the 4 touchdown game, he only had 25 receiving yards
25.
because they were all goal line touchdown passes.
Right.
And so he can get his stuff in even if he's not getting a lot of yards. But yeah, I like the over. I just think this is a big game. They're probably going to give it to Kelce a lot, and I this is one of the things as well. I don't think the Eagles have been especially good at defending against great tight ends, and there might be some little bit of weaknesses over the middle because the Eagles have 2 pretty good corners on the outside. Maybe the middle they will exploit Mahomes. He's not afraid of throwing over the middle like a lot of other quarterbacks are. So maybe, yeah, I like the over. I partly I want to see Kelce go over. That's why I pick the over. But
yeah,
I can talk myself into it as well.
I mean, thankfully, a lot of these things can happen regardless of the outcome of the game. So, you know, if the game doesn't go the way we want it to, you and I personally, you know, some of these things can still be, you know, successful bets. Though. So
yeah,
that's you know, one of the things we should, as from the betting mind side of things, that we are, you know, sort of able to find something in the game that is interesting, even if the game isn't going the way we like want our team to play, right? So
yeah, and that's partly why we made so many of these other smaller amount bets that could win us bigger amounts of money. So we did our 7 $100 bets. You want to talk about our 5 $50 bets next?
that's good.
Um,
So we're just how are we gonna do this? We're just gonna alternate because we think we kind of both went through the list of the bets on FanDuel
yeah.
and picked out bets that were in the mid range for this. So like anywhere up to plus 1,000 odds. Is that right?
Yes, I think most of us ended up doing ones that weren't just plus 100 uh, type or minus 110 or whatever, type
Yes.
bets.
I only had
Yeah.
one in that category. That was in that area at least anyway.
Okay. Yeah, mine were
Did you
mine
have
were
any?
oh, I did one. I did one. I had
Okay.
I'll do my so maybe I'll do that one first. The lowest payout. So I had um a a a bet on the total points scored in the game by both teams, whether that was going to be odd or even the total number.
Oh,
And I would I got a little better. I got a little better odds, no pun intended, on the even amount. If I'd done the first half, the odd and even scores were the same. It was minus 112 to win 100 both times. But in the for the final, I think it was minus 116 to win 100 if it was odd final score, but it was plus 100 uh, minus 100 if it
so just even.
was even.
Straight
So
even
I
odds.
straight. So yeah, I decided to take that. So if I bet $50 on the total points scored by both teams at the end of the game will be an even number, and that would bring me plus $50.
Okay.
How about your shortest
My
odds?
shortest odds. I went to there was a Mahomes rushing yards prop of uh over under of 19.5 yards. And it's a minus 104. So it's the only negative uh odds, at least anyway, for this.
But essentially, a coin flip, like it would be technically
Basically a coin
minus
flip.
110 for most things. Minus 104 was what the actual coin flip was. So this
Yeah.
is, yeah,
I
I think
like
that's,
that I like this bet better than the coin flip bet
mhm.
personally. Because that Mahomes rushing for 19 and a half yards seems like a no-brainer. Like he'll pull off some run at some point that may go for that, in a single, time. As long as he stays healthy enough to be able to do that, right?
One thing you have to worry about though is if the Chiefs are winning and ahead at the end of the game, the kneel downs at the end can take you back
That's
under.
true.
And you might
It's true.
remember at the end of the 49ers game, Mahomes didn't just have regular kneel downs in the Super Bowl. He had like 8 yard back kneel
Time
downs,
wasting
kneel downs.
kneel
So like
down.
I think uh, I'm gonna look up Mahomes' rushing yards Super Bowl
So
in
he
that
he
game.
did only rush for 8 yards in the last game.
Yeah, he only rushed for 29 yards and a touchdown um, in the 49ers game, but I think he probably had about 45 yards going into that last series. And
Oh, really?
he had a lot of yards going in the last series, and he took like three big long yellows. So that would be my one thing, but I think 19 isn't very many, and a couple of scrambles will put him over,
Mhm.
and I don't think that's a bad bet.
How about your next
Okay,
smallest odds bet that you had?
my next smallest odds bet was one. I made an alternate point spread, again I think the Chiefs are going to win, and I thought I could get the Chiefs at minus 6.5, so if they win by um, a touchdown or more, I would get plus 220 odds. So so I would if I bet $50, I would get 110 if they won by a touchdown, and I don't think that's. I think if the Chiefs win, I don't. I think that's a decent odds that they'll win by a touchdown. The Chiefs, you play a lot of close games, but 6.5 points isn't a ton, and I feel like the Chiefs when they if they play well, I think they can. I think they can win by um, win by that much. I wasn't confident enough till I could have gotten a lot more odds if I had gone to plus 7.5 over a touchdown. I wasn't that confident, so I thought maybe a touchdown I liked. So, but it's Chiefs minus 6.5 uh, plus 220. I thought about maybe taking the Eagles kind of the same amount and hedging completely, and then making a little money if the Eagles won, but I didn't really. I don't know. I guess if I win, I want to win big with the Chiefs more than I
Yeah,
want to lose bets on the Eagles winning.
that's
So
fair.
yeah. How about your next shortest?
Next shortest. I found one bet that was a number of players with a pass attempt of over 2.5. So
Hmm.
a both quarterbacks plus just one other guy at any point during the game throws a pass attempt.
Hmm.
It's a plus 154.
Ooh, so it could be a backup quarterback. It could be a punter,
Right, a
kicker, and a fake
wide
field goal.
receiver could be
Yeah,
some kind of option type play to wide receiver, running back.
a
Um,
Philly special type of play, maybe even.
yeah, back to a quarterback even, yeah. As long as somebody else throws a pass. Now watch, it'll be somebody else throws, like Kelsey throws a pass to the goal line, but Hurts never attempts a pass in the entire game somehow, right? He only rushes the ball.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's happened really much since 1906 when the forward pass was legalized in American football. But I guess technically it's
So
possible.
it'd be a funny way to lose that bet, right?
Yeah, maybe I guess the only way that would happen is like if the Eagles were running like 15 yards a play on the ground, and why would they pass since they could just run it down the Chiefs' throats? I don't. Yeah, that would be. Yeah, I don't see that happening. But um,
Funny
I
concept though.
yeah, I don't think that. Yeah, I can see you losing that bet, but I don't think you're going to lose it in that crazy,
Not in
crazy
that
way.
way.
Um, I could see perhaps if Hurts doesn't throw a pass, it's because Hurts ends up being like Purdy or something like that, or Mahomes ends up being like Purdy and getting hurt before he can throw a pass, and
Yeah,
then it's just a backup in it. But I think if a backup gets in, they're more likely to do some sort of trick,
some
kind of razzle dazzle
trickery.
types of things to try to, um, because you need offense, and the defenses are going to feast on the backup quarterback. So whether it's Minshew or Hanny, any other comments on your quarterback bet or pass attempting bet?
Yeah, to me that one seems like it's the odds are close enough that it seems like somebody throws an extra pass somewhere, right
Mm-hmm.
along. And it seems
Yeah,
like if you got a trick play somewhere in your bag, this is the game to pull out the stops.
I think so too. Yeah, I don't think that's a bad bet.
Yeah.
My next bet is a little bit of a it's a parlay,
Okay.
and it involves Chris Jones and the Kansas City money line. So if Chris Jones gets a sack and the Chiefs win, that's a plus 240 bet. So and Jones, of course, got his first two sacks in his playoff career against the Bengals. I could see him getting a sack. The Eagles have a very good offensive line, but the Chiefs have after the Eagles have had the second best team when it comes to total sacks. So I can see Jones getting um, getting through and getting a sack. And I think also if Jones gets a sack, the Chiefs will probably win that game if Jones is playing well enough to sack Hurts. So so that's plus 240 with $100. So it would be plus 120 for me with a $50.
Okay. Plus 120. That's pretty good. Is that plus 120? Was that what it was?
It was plus 240 was
Oh,
the odds, but
oh,
it would
120 was what you would actually win. I got you.
I would win 120. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Got it. Let's see. My next bet was on a Marquez Valdez Scantling alternate receiving yard. I went with if he ends up at 60 or more receiving yards, it is a plus 250 bet.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with that for my next pick.
So you would win 125 on $50.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, my fourth of the $50 bets was involved the first drive. It didn't matter who had the ball first. but that there would be a field goal attempt at the end of the first drive.
Okay.
And those odds were plus 430, which I thought were pretty good. That the team that got the ball first would try to kick a field goal. They wouldn't get a touchdown or have to punt or something like that. So it doesn't
They
say
don't have to
anything you would
make
make.
it either.
They don't have to make the field goal. You
Essentially.
only have to attempt the field goal. So plus
Okay.
430, I thought was pretty good there, because I think lots of times, even the team moves the ball well, they might have to kick a field goal. So whether I could see the Eagles doing that or the Chiefs.
Hmm.
Um, so plus 430, so that would win me 215 on 50. So I like that one as again. And also, it's one of those where it doesn't really matter what the outcome of the game is or which team does it. So um, I picked field goal, uh, first drive plus 430.
And it's not team specific. It's just
Not team
whoever.
specific. Yeah.
Yeah, just the first drive of the game, no matter who it is. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Mhm.
We'll see. My next pick is on Jalen Hurts rushing yards. So an alternate rushing yard total. So if he goes 70 plus yards, the odds on that are plus 280.
Ooh.
So the $50 bet would net $140.
So Hurts rushing.
Yes.
Yeah, Hurts
Yeah, so
has.
now we're you've gone a little bit stronger odds earlier than I did. So your potential for winning dollars in this section of the betting contest, uh you're gonna have a higher ceiling. It
Ooh, I
looks
like
like.
that. But
Yeah.
but it's going to be a much riskier play. My last of those five bets is an anytime touchdown bet. I was thinking of maybe going with Darius Tony, but I don't know if he's going to finish the game. But he was plus
Yeah.
400. He was plus 400 this game, and I thought that was pretty good. It was only plus 260, I think, last game, and he almost caught it, but he also got hurt early on. So I decided I didn't want to bet on Tony because I feel like I'm jinxing him if I bet on Tony. I am going to bet on a guy who was actually not in the game last week. That was Justin Watson, who was ill and did not play. But when he does play, he gets attention from Mahomes quite a bit.
Mhm.
And maybe with the other receivers a little bit banged up, maybe Watson will play more. So there's an anytime touchdown from Justin Watson, plus 900. So
Ooh,
I would get $450 on that $50 bet if
nice.
Justin Watson gets a touchdown, which he's had before for the Chiefs this season.
Yeah, so your ceiling just got much higher than with that too.
Oh, he
And
did.
much higher than what I went to.
Mhm.
I went more conservative on this set of picks too. So I found one about it was a first TD scorer combo. So it'd be if one of the two players that are listed scores a touchdown, then that would win.
Okay.
So the two players that I've picked are Travis Kelce and Jalen Hurts. So I picked one to pick one player from each team, at least anyway. That combinations of Kelce or Jalen Hurts scores. Now Hurts would have to rush, not
Mm.
throw. He'd actually have to be the one that takes the ball into the end zone.
Mm.
Is a plus 320.
If they both do it, or if only one of them,
Only one of them has to do it. Yeah, just one.
is that right?
So it's Kelce or Hurts as the first. It has to be the first touchdown
Oh,
of the
the
game.
first. Oh, the first touchdown of the game. Okay.
Yeah. So
It's
the
like I
first
think of a
touchdown
lot
of
of
the
them.
game,
Okay.
Kelce or Hurts. So this way, it's at least a bit of a hedge on
Mm.
um, if the Chiefs had the ball first and score, if it's Kelce, then that would win. But if the Eagles end up with the ball first and get a touchdown, and Hurts is the one that rushes it in, then that would count still for this anyway. So there's it wouldn't necessarily matter you know whichever team starts with the ball, there's a chance that you could still win the bet without having to rely on not knowing who's actually going to get the ball first. I think we both kind of had the same sort of mentality in finding one of those bets in this
Yeah.
at least anyway,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
because
That's
you,
I think
you
that's
ended
a
up, you ended up going with an outcome where from one of your bets there would be you know first possession That way, it doesn't matter which team it is. It's fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a decent bet too. I looked at the Watson one. He has played 18 games, I think, this year. I think he played every regular season game. He only played one playoff game. Um, he has 2 touchdowns in 18 games, so that's one in every 9 games. So the odds, it's a I'm not getting screwed on the odds for that. So maybe that's a good bet for the Watson. Our So those are our $50 bets. So yours are a little more conservative. Mine are a little riskier. Um,
I'm guessing you went. I'm going to be more conservative on this one too. That's what I'm assuming is about to happen. Having
I'm
not
not
talked about
sure.
this ahead of time.
I haven't talked about it. Um, yeah. So this one will be a $50. We're each making 10 $5 bets at greater than 10 to 1 odds, plus 1,000 if we bet $100. So these are a chance to win and win big, or at least relatively big, since it's only betting five. But some of them we can win big depending how far um, uh, depending on how high their bets were. So you mentioned, maybe I'll talk about my first bet since you mentioned Travis Kelce scoring a touchdown or Jalen Hurts scoring a touchdown.
Yeah.
My first of the kind of lottery ticket bets was that Kelce would score the first and last touchdown of the game. Um,
Ooh.
and that was plus 4,700. So I thought, yeah, why not? He might score multiple touchdowns. He might get the first and last. Who knows? If that happens, I'll be pretty happy. It's only $5 if I lose it, so
Yeah. But if
it'll
you
be
win, it would be
$235.
yeah. It's
Ten would
pretty
be
big.
470. 10 would be 470, and five would be 235. So
But then
if
that
I
would be
win,
worth two full bets in the of the original set.
hmm
Anyway, you could
yeah.
make
So
up for another loss somewhere with the
yeah,
flyer.
a flyer like that. So I did, yeah. So I did a few of those in kind of that middle range. I did a couple of them lower than that, but some of them also very much higher odds than that. So yeah, Kelsey first and last touchdown plus 4,700, which would net me 235 with $5. How about your first of the $5?
So my first pick was something that we always talk about anyway, that I would always bet on if there's, because it's one of my favorite scoring plays in the game anyway. Apparently is 4 times more likely to happen than Kelsey scoring the first and last touch of the game. Is the occurrence of a safety in the game is plus 1,040. So I'm taking that for my first pick.
Ooh,
Always bet
okay.
on safety.
Safety. So you
That's a
plus
conservative pick in
plus
this test, right?
1040, you would make how much? Uh,
About $200, I think, right?
plus 1040, so it would be
Oh no,
plus
it'd be
520 if you, or plus 104 if it were $10, plus 52. You make $52.
yeah, 50 bucks, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah,
$52
yeah, yeah, 10%, yeah.
on five.
50 bucks.
$52 on five. So that's, yeah, it might be a safety. Who knows? Yeah, you never know. Uh, it could also, a snap out of the end zone,
There are
fumble,
lots of ways it could happen, but
a
it's
strategic,
unlikely.
a strategic safety at the end of a game,
Yeah,
perhaps if there's a. Um, I have my next bet is odds very close to that, um, and it's a plus 1,000 bet on $100, and that's the first Eagles reception in the game. It was going to be made by Quez Watkins, the third wide receiver on the Eagles. So it's not AJ Brown or Devontae Smith. It would be Quez Watkins,
or running back, or yeah,
um, and
or Goddard.
yeah, I decided to go Quez
Yeah,
because I wanted to get 1,000 for the five,
so it's
um,
plus 1,000.
plus 1,000. So it would be $50. It would be plus $50 with my five. So that would bring me even on those $50 bets, even if I didn't get any of the others right. So I wanted to
Yeah,
do one like that. He has on the season, he has 51 catches for 354 yards on the season. So he gets 3 catches a game, and maybe one of them might turn out to be the first one. Who knows?
yeah,
Um, I'd say I don't think Hurts. I guess you could say I don't think Hurts throws 30 completions a game, and if it's random who catches the ball first,
Yeah.
uh, I'd say more than 1 in 10 of his completions goes to Watkins. So maybe that's a better, I don't know. Maybe it's better than the odds indicate. I don't think it's likely to happen, but it's also one of the ones that doesn't really affect the outcome of the game. And if the Eagles are doing well or the Chiefs are doing well, it's still could come through. So $50, I stand to gain with 5 on the Nez Watkins first reception for the Eagles.
So it isn't it just is the first reception, not just the first pass. Like who it's to, it actually has to be a catch. And
Yes,
yeah,
I can look that up. I could look that up again.
it's got to be, yeah.
Player first reception. Um, yeah, I don't. First player to have a reception on the Eagles. Yeah, it's definitely so. It's not both teams. It's just on the Eagles plus 1,000.
Yeah. First player to have reception on Eagles. There it is. Yeah. Plus 1,000. Got it. Cool. Nice. So my next pick is more hopeful for a Chiefs big game, especially from Patrick Mahomes. Exactly 5 touchdown passes
Ooh,
from Patrick Mahomes plus $1,700. Plus 1,700. So the
he did.
payout.
He did throw exactly 5 touchdown passes against the Eagles in Philadelphia last year when he played them. 3 of them, of course, was Tyreek Hill, but still possible. Plus 1,700.
Yeah.
If Mahomes throws 5 touchdown passes, I think all of the rest of our bets are going to come in and do well.
Yeah.
So exactly. So if he gets 6, however, would you be upset?
That I didn't win a bet for fake money. I will say no, unless I lose by the difference to you in the
I
competition.
see. I I could
Then
see
I would
maybe
be slightly upset. That is all. No.
I could see maybe you'd be upset if he threw for 4 and it looked like it was 5, but they counted one of them as a rushing touchdown for the receiver.
Right.
Like if the like the Kadarius Toney snow globe play, the before it got called back,
Yes.
that was a passing touchdown from Mahomes, but then the next play was a handoff from Mahomes, and so
To Tony also.
to Tony also, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, plus seventeen
That
hundred.
would be slightly, or if there's like a touchdown catch that gets overturned by a dumb penalty from our favorite
Oh,
official.
Peppers, yeah. So you'd win $85 on plus 1,700 with 5.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
My next few bets, I decided to go really, really long shots on,
Ooh.
um, and I'd say 5 out of my next next 8 bets are really long shots.
All
My
right.
first of these long shots is that Jalen Watson. So I have a Justin Watson bet, and also have a Jalen Watson bet, rookie cornerback, that he would have 2 or more interceptions in this game, and that
Yes.
is plus 20,000. So $5 will win me 1,000 in this
Wow.
bet. So
And likely win our competition outright if
yeah,
that bet hits.
if it comes through, so -5.
Yeah.
So for $5 plus 1,000, 201.
So I can already tell you with that, just with that pick, your ceiling will be higher than mine, no matter what you have for the rest of your picks. If they're all just plus 1,000, your ceiling's still going to be higher than mine for this.
Interesting. Okay, so Jalen Watson 2 plus INTs plus 20,000, so I would win 1,000 on that 5. And Watson I think he had an interception against Joe Burrow, and dream big. He had an interception return for a touchdown against Justin Herbert, so maybe this is his time
Yes.
to shine.
Yeah. No, that'd be great. I would love to see this. I
Mhm.
like this game the way that this is shaping up for all of our bets to play out. Yes.
How
Unlikely.
how how about your third?
My next one was kind of a bit of a hedge if the game, isn't necessarily going great. Is a combo of Pacheco and Miles Sanders combining for 200 plus scrimmage yards and a combined 3 touchdowns
Ooh, altogether.
together. So the two of
So
them together have to add to
to
200 plus
200
scrimmage and
and
three
three
touchdowns
touchdowns total.
between the two of them. For plus 3,600.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, plus 1,400. Plus 1,400.
Plus 1,400.
I skipped the lines there. Plus 1,400 for that combo.
So that would be you'd win $70 on that one with five.
Five.
Okay.
Yes.
My next three bets, I don't know if you want me to do them all in a row or not.
You can
They're all
if they're
related.
tied together, may as well.
They're tied together. These are all exact score outcomes that I can
Okay.
predict. So you can bet on the exact score of the game. I picked three Chiefs victories on the exact score. All of these victories would also be part of the over 50.5 that I had bet before.
Okay.
Uh, um, my first of these Chiefs scores uh, was Chiefs 31, Eagles 20, which would be the exact score of the Super Bowl that Chiefs beat the 49ers in 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And that pays plus 22,000 if it's Chiefs 31, Eagles 20, which would net me $1,100 on that bet. My next score that I picked, I was actually thinking of maybe I just do all scores and see if I could hit one of them. But I thought it'd be
It would be 11,000 though, right?
plus 1,100.
It'd be like 500, right?
No, it's plus 22,000 is the
Yeah.
number. So for $10, it would be plus 11,000. So
Oh,
I mean
these
for
are these are
$50,
five these are $5 bets though, right?
$5 bet. So I mean for 10, so it's plus 22,000 for 100. For $10, it would be plus
Well,
2,200. So for five, it's plus 1,100.
yeah, $1,100. Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah. I think I may have said something wrong. I was thinking plus 1,100. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
plus 22,000. My next two scores are actually higher odds. I have Chiefs 34, Eagles 23 at plus 43,000, which would net me 2,150.
Yes.
And then I have Chiefs 37, Eagles 21, a little higher scoring, lopsided, plus 50,000. So that would net me 2,500.
But you can go scoregami with any of these, or
No, I was trying to think of scores where the Chiefs would win kind of comfortably, but they were scores that I thought were ones that weren't unlikely to happen.
right.
That you've seen a lot of scores. I tried to pick common-ish scores, but also ones that none of these are probably going to hit, but you might as well win big, and you're only losing $5 each time. So I didn't.
Yeah.
Um,
The only problem with these types of bets is you cannot win all of them. Like
no, no, that's the big problem.
right? If one of these hits, two of them lost. So
Yeah,
right.
and that would be a damn shame. I'd be really crying into my wings.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I've I've made six of those 10 bets so far. So how about you want to do three to catch up in a row?
Sure. So so the next two I had actually the very next two I had were exact points scored, but just for one team, not the
Okay.
total scores anyway. But so I had a Chiefs exact point scored of 35 was plus 3,600.
Okay.
And then I also selected in the Eagles exact point scored of 18 was 90 plus 9,500.
Oh, okay.
So if the final score ends up being 35 to 18,
Hmm.
I will have lost my over under bet on the game, but I would have much larger payouts on
Yes.
this, right? So that's okay.
Yeah. So if you want, if you wanted to bet 35 to 18 Chiefs Eagles,
Yeah.
Doesn't look like that's a. I bet you'd have to like make your own odds
You have to,
on that
yeah,
one.
pull it
I
out.
don't see. Yeah, there's a 35-27, a 35-31, 35-32. I don't see a 35-18 on here.
Okay.
But yeah, so you'd get 3,600
Plus
Chiefs,
3,600, plus 9,500. So it'd be
180
like
and
nine.
475.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that sounds right.
Nice.
Yeah.
How about your next bet?
The next two, I guess, are somewhat related.
Okay.
I have so I'll maybe just go ahead and do both of those anyway, because
Yeah.
they're sort of linked. So I had player to record the first sack of the game. I picked Carlos Dunlop,
Ooh, I saw that one.
plus 1,200. And player to record the first interception of the game. I have Justin Reed at plus 1,700.
Okay. Both of those are very plausible.
They are indeed bets that can be made. All right, how about
My
your
next
next
my next one,
long shot?
um, my next long shot is on Jerick McKinnon, and it's he of course got a lot of receiving touchdowns down the stretch in the regular season. If he gets two or more receiving touchdowns, I get plus 3,800. So that would be a payout of $190 on five. So plus 3,800. McKinnon 2+ receiving touchdowns. I think I looked at the odds. 2+ anytime regular touchdowns from McKinnon was only plus 1,100 or something like that. So
Yeah.
I'd say most of his touchdowns come through the air. So I think that's a good.
He had his streak of games, wasn't it like 8 in a row or so that he had a receiving touchdown?
Yes, yeah. He had
And I think there was at least one of those games he had more than one. So it's not like this isn't going, outside the realm of what we've already seen this year at different points.
yes, he had against Denver. Actually, in both games against Denver, he had two receiving touchdowns. So he had 9 touchdowns in the regular season through 17 games. He has had none in the playoffs, however, but he had two receptions. So that's 1 in 8 games. So you'd say that if that would be it
It's
should be
due.
plus. You'd say maybe it's plus 800 would should be the odds, and I'm getting plus
Yeah.
3,800, so maybe it's good. Uh, so two,
No.
yeah. That was the game where he got the kind of no look lateral or the kind of underhand pass from like the 50-yard line, and also a short goal line. So McKinnon 2+ receiving touchdowns plus 3,800. So he can get 3 of them, I'd still win. So it's 2
You're
plus.
not limited. You're not capped at 2.
Yeah,
He could have 7, and it'd be
yeah,
fine. You'd already
yeah.
have
It'd be
won.
just it would hurt if he got 7. It would hurt your Mahomes 5 touchdown bet, but
Yeah. Oh.
okay. How about your next one? Is
Let's
this your
see.
ninth out of 10 or
This
eighth out of
is
10?
my 7th,
Okay, so we're
8th,
even again.
8th. 1, 2,
Eighth.
3. No, 7. I don't know, whatever. Oh yeah, it's 8.
Okay.
Is first player to reach 10 plus rushing yards. This is a more of a very much a gamble, at least anyway. My guess is that Mahomes will have an opportunity to have a scramble, and he will be the first to 10 yards, plus 1,400 on
I
that.
think that's a decent bet, especially if the Chiefs get the ball first.
Right.
That's part of it. So you'd have to have the Chiefs get the ball first and Mahomes to have a long scramble on that first drive, basically.
Yeah.
And 10, yeah, plus was it 1,400?
1,400. Yeah.
So 14 to 1 odds. Yeah, yeah. Who knows? Yeah, I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's bad at all. Yeah, most of I would be actually be surprised if any of us won any of these $5 bets, but
Yeah.
I don't. They all make sense in the abstract. Just like this one makes sense. It's similar to yours, plus 1,400. This is plus 1,600, and this is a Jody Fortson touchdown. Chiefs
Oh.
money line parlay. So if the Chiefs win and Fortson catches a touchdown, which I would imagine if Fortson catches a touchdown, the Chiefs are going to win. It's plus 1,600. So I would get $80. So, if Jody Fortson gets a touchdown, um, he he's back in action. I think the Chiefs might end up running a lot of multiple tight end sets, especially with his receivers kind of hurt. Also, probably to give extra protection to Mahomes if his
Mhm.
because of the Eagles pass rush, and so having a lot of those tight ends maybe it'll lead to Fortson who kind of gets short yardage. Maybe sometimes he's also one of the guys that stays open long enough for Mahomes to find if he's running around in the red zone. So um, um, I saw somewhere that the Chiefs scored 55 red zone touchdowns this year. They had 67 total touchdowns, 55 of them were red zone. I think they're one of only like 5 or 6 teams to score more than 50 red zone touchdowns in a
Wow.
season ever. Um, and one of the other teams was the 2018 Chiefs. So good in the red zone. I think Fortune might, if that Kelsey one doesn't work out, maybe they can get the Fortson one. So plus 1,600 Fortson touchdown money line Chiefs parlay. So the Chiefs win plus 1,600. Okay, how about your ninth and penultimate?
This is a redemption type pick here. Sky Moore had some difficulty returning kicks early in the season. Uh, I've got a Sky Moore return kick or punt touchdown plus 3,000.
Ooh,
He had
that
a
would be a
really good return in the last game that set up the game-winning drive. Uh,
mhm.
yeah, maybe he's ready to break one out.
He also
That's
had a good return that got called back because of a penalty
yeah.
as well. So yeah, you never know. That would be a big story. There'd be a lot. That would be a big kind of sort of human interest Horatio Alger type of rags to riches story
Yes.
for young Sky Moore. Um, I also have a my next bet is also would be if it came through for me that would provide me uh, a rags to riches story. This is uh, a that Legarius Sneed, the Chiefs cornerback, he was on the mend, had a concussion last week, but seems like he's going to play. If Sneed, who often blitzes from his cornerback position and gets sacks every once in a while, he's had about
Mhm.
3.5 to 4 sacks this year. If Sneed has 2 or more sacks in this game, that's plus 16,000. Um, so I took that. So that would be on $5, I'd get $800. Sneed 2 or more sacks this game.
Nice. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, and I think if the corner blitz might work. Uh, Also, maybe because of maybe a spy on Hurts, maybe you maybe be I don't know. Sometimes running plays, maybe they count a kind of iffy running play slash moving out of the pocket a sack rather than a run. So maybe against the running quarterback, the cornerback might be able to get more. So I thought maybe that's a good bet. 2 or more sacks by Legarius Sneed.
Nice. Sounds great.
Hmm.
This is the game I want to see where all of these hit. This would be amazing. Yeah. So now we're down to our final picks.
Yes.
It's my final pick. I went on to bet something on the Eagles side just to see, you know, in case they do at least okay, then I could maybe win something on that side too. So I have a Miles Sanders 1+ rushing touchdown and 1+ receiving touchdown plus 3,100.
Ooh. Okay. So Sanders doing 2 touchdowns, but through different ways.
Two different routes, yes.
Okay. Plus 3,100.
Plus 3,100. That's my final pick.
My final bet, and before I wanted to ask my final bet, I just saw something on ESPN that LeBron James did pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar tonight as the
Nice.
NBA's all-time leading scorer. He did that in Oklahoma City. He needed, I think, 36 points tonight, and he did that with 10 seconds left in the third quarter. So he might be on
Wow.
his way to a really big um, night.
Oh, and
And
they're losing right now.
so he'll have to keep scoring against Oklahoma City. Yeah, they're losing, and he scored 36. He's really been a kind of one man show for the Lakers, who somehow are, it's just he's um, yeah, the 113-106 right now. But still 8 minutes left, so it's a high scoring game. But yeah, LeBron has scored.
36 points in 26 minutes.
That's not bad. 4 out of 5 from 3 point range. Yeah, 8 out of 10 field goal field free throws.
12 of
He's
18 from the floor. That's pretty.
yeah.
Yeah.
His plus and minus is +7 too. So when he's been on the court, they've been winning, and they're
Yeah.
-14 without him on the court so far. So
Yeah.
that's a um, shows how valuable he still is at a very old age. So
Yeah.
um,
And
and
Anthony Davis is in the game too. I didn't. I wasn't even sure that he was back.
yeah,
Like,
I think he
yeah,
just came back recently.
yeah.
Westbrook has played some too. Yeah. But speaking of scoring in a variety of ways, my last bet is also a scoring bet, and it's a bet on the number of points scored by both teams in each half total. So the total scores in the half, and you could bet that the second half would be higher for like plus 105, or the first half would be higher for plus 105. I picked at plus 2100. I picked that the halves would have total scoring in both halves would be tied. So I got plus 2100. So like if a total of 24 points was scored in the first half by both teams and a total of 24 in the second half by both teams, I would win if the numbers are the same.
Okay.
It
So
doesn't matter which team.
the combined points for the two teams in the first half is going to equal the combined points for the two teams in the second half. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. And that would be nice.
Interesting.
And that
Did
would
you
go with
sneak
my.
that one out, or did you just happen to cross it?
I was looking at it. I was just looking at kind of scoring totals, and that one
Yeah.
stuck out to me. I tried to find one that was plus 1,000 or more. Um, that would also be a nice parlay, or not parlay, but a kind of accompaniment if my total points number is even on the night. So that was a 50-50 prospect. So if it's tied, of course it's going to be even. So if it's a tie, two numbers that are the same added together is by definition going to be an even number as well. So if I win that one, I win another one.
You
So
could win that also. Yes.
yeah.
Neat.
Well, we've really had an exhausting One Track Power Hour, I think, tonight. Do we have any other final thoughts about the Super Bowl?
Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs, yes. And I hope they win. I think I'm not. I will. I would have been more disappointed if the Chiefs lost the AFC Championship game than the Super Bowl. So going to the Super Bowl, I think, is always a good thing. And I'll try not to be upset if the Chiefs lose, but I will be jubilant if they win. And this is one of those things about being a Chiefs fan. It's so different from the rest of our lives. Prior to 3 years ago, they had never been in the Super Bowl during our lifetime. Now they've
Mm-hmm.
been to three in the last 4 seasons,
Yeah.
and it's a whole new world out there with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback and Andy Reid as your coach.
It turns out that, like, just in general, this is a lot more fun. This
Yes,
era of watching Chiefs football. It's not.
it's more fun, but it's also a little more stressful, I guess, because you think every game they're trying to win and they have a chance and like everything's important and they're playing all these close games and so
Yeah.
like I guess it's not the you used to just be used I guess to heartbreaking playoff losses pretty much
Yeah.
every year every other year, but now
It does. It seems to be more difficult with the expectation of winning. I think more than just like, oh, maybe we can win scenario, right?
yeah, and
It's
I've never
the expectation like leads to, yeah, the possibility of disappointment rather than the, like, you're going to be disappointed in the old Chiefs eras, right?
uh, in in also having a player like Mahomes. I've never been as invested in a single player and his success before. And I really want Mahomes to be considered to be one of the great ones and to will the Chiefs to victory. He's my favorite. He's become kind of my favorite player in any sport of any time in my life. It's kind of funny that I'm you know mid 40s now almost, I guess technically, and he's my sporting hero, Patrick Mahomes. Uh,
Idolizing a much younger person, it does seem weird.
yes,
Or,
my
like
my
realizing that you like the jersey of the player you're wearing, is for a person that's younger than you. That was strange. That weird, like, inflection point where it's like
mhm.
now all of the players that you will get jerseys for from here out will be people younger than you,
Yeah,
right?
because Tom Brady retired, he was the only player that was older than us in the
Yeah,
NFL. So we still have this idea, maybe in the back of our head, that we could make the pros if we had thought about it, really tried. But now I think it's really past us,
yeah,
and we have to content ourselves with doing these sorts of podcasts and maybe winning a lot of fake money uh, while doing so.
yes. And that will wrap up our phase 2 of our betting
Yeah, and we'll
competition.
come back next week after the Super Bowl. We won't, no matter what happens. I don't think we'll take a year-long hiatus or plus hiatus if the Chiefs blow it in the Super Bowl. We'll come back and take our lumps and go over what we missed. And it's still possible. I guess we could break somewhat even on the betting, depending
Yeah,
on how it would shake out
we
if we
either
lost.
revel in our victory or the
Agonize
other one.
in our defeat. So, but until then, you can find out how we'll do. Uh, by watching the Super Bowl on Sunday. I hope if you're rooting for the Chiefs, I hope the Chiefs win, and I'm not rooting for the Eagles, even if you are. But I wish you no ill will. So until then, I wish you, uh, happy betting. And as always, I am Dr. Michael Lerman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the Warning Track Power Hour. Please like and or subscribe to our podcast delivery delivery channels, whether it's AV or just A. And until then, we bid you good day.